This is the Mezgers Only Podcast with your host, Aaron, where we talk all things Mezger. This is episode 4 of Mezgers Only. We have Niko or Nikos.
Yeah, Niko.
Niko. So I don't know. It's names. This is the third episode. I call everybody something. Somebody has a nickname somewhere. So I'm Aaron Johnson, Mezgers Only, episode 4. So this is going to be an interesting story. Mainly because my car was his car one time, but I didn't know that. And there's stories that I don't know, so we're going to learn together different track times and things like that, and kind of talk about how he got his RS, because it's a pretty cool story, how he tracked it down from where he did, and then just things in general, like the market we talked about, like offline, how crazy it's getting for the 4.0 market, cool. Motor builds, like everything seems to be just all of a sudden a multiple. Doesn't matter what we're doing, like it's pretty insane.
Yeah, for sure.
Welcome in.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
it. You can give a little background on yourself.
I would say my entrance into the Porsche world,
mm-hmm.
would be like I had an E46 M3, and then I had to sell it because the market crashed in 2008.
Okay.
And then I made a little bit of money, and at that time the E92 came out.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
I was like, I wasn't 100% sold on it. I didn't love that at V8, but I wanted to go check it out.
So you weren't a V8 fan, huh?
Yeah. And then I just love the inline six,
Okay.
I feel like it's such a staple of BMW. And so I was with a buddy of mine, and he's like, well, let's just stop by Porsche. And I'm like, there's no way I cannot afford this car. And he's like, just try it. So I went there, and they were desperate to get Carreras off the lot. Because they could not sell them.
Yeah.
So it was a 997.2. It was 09. And the salesman, he makes me test drive the Carrera S. And I'm like, it's $100,000. I'll never be able to afford this.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, just try it. Of course, it was amazing, know? And it the way that it started, how raw it was, I just loved 997s. And then I was like, listen, the numbers can't work. I can't, Yeah. As I was walking out, he ran out, and he's like, hey, I called my manager, blah, blah. And they gave me some insane lease deal.
Really?
Where the price was the same monthly price as the E92. Because they just had to get the cars off the lot. And so from there, I had some friends, and they were like, hey, we do this DE thing. Let's go check it out, you know? And I love cars. And so I started tracking a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's when I started coming across the GT3s,
Yeah.
And I quickly realized that not that I maxed out, but the level of driving with the C2S, I was at inflection point where you're going to spend a ton of money to make it something that it's not.
What'd you notice first? Was it brakes? Was it just power? Was it all together?
I would say it's a little bit of everything. I think that the diff was one of the biggest things. So braking on Sebring, turn 7, the back end would get real wobbly. The stock suspension, the passive suspension couldn't keep up with it. And from there, the rotation compared to the GT3, I saw the guys trail braking so much faster into the corner, and I just could not get that type of grip.
Yeah.
And
or confidence either.
Yeah. And so when I looked into redoing the suspension and so forth, I'm like, it's still a Carrera S at the end of the day,
Yeah.
So then I jumped in. I went to a local dealership, and I jumped into they had a used GT3 skinny, which is the one that you own.
Yeah. Which is a crazy story too. I don't know if you know how I got it, but
it's a crazy story. But yeah, so what are you talking about? Actually, no. I apologize. You're right. Okay. So I picked up that dealership GT3, and then I had it for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, your GT3 popped up for sale on Renlist.
Nice.
And the guy had a brand new motor put in. He basically had all the mods that I wanted to do to the car.
Yeah.
And so I had to go back to the dealership and beg them and say, listen, could you buy back the car that I just bought? And then work out the deal, and just so I don't have to pay taxes, and I could buy this new car. They thought I was crazy, but they're I had to lower the price a little bit.
Yeah.
And so they did the whole transfer, and then I went up to, I believe it was North Carolina, and I picked up the car that you own.
That's cool.
So
That's
it was awesome. I love that car. It had everything that I needed on it. It was fantastic.
Well, it's like anything. When you first get in those cars, you go, well, it's even I would say similar to the E46 transition to just a 911.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, the feel of this is everything I wanted this E46 to be, or
Exactly.
92. Like, all right, if steering feels right, all right,
Yeah.
turn-in feels insane, all right, the suspension's feeling right.
Yeah.
And
There,
then,
there seems to be a natural progression from like BMW to Porsche with the M3 and then the GT3
For sure.
and the 911 for sure.
and then you don't even think, you're like, okay, GT3 can't be that much better. Like, it can't be that much of a transition. But even with the same body style, it's
Yeah.
still what they do in engineering is like miracles.
Yeah, honestly, I know it's going to sound like ridiculous, but when I first got my GT3, it drove so different from my 997 that I actually hated it.
Really?
I actually thought, I was like, oh man, I'm like, they kind of like overpumped this, and it's like, what a mistake I made. The first DE event that we went to with the GT3, it was Roebling Road.
Okay.
And that's like more like long sweepers and so forth. And the back end was just kind of getting out, and I was really frustrated because you got to drive the car completely different.
Yeah.
And that's when I had a lot of friends who were like really good at DEing, and they started telling me, they're like, stop focusing on the track time, stop, because I had like a little
Track timer.
I forget what it was. It was like an app back in the day that that you could put there, and it was pretty accurate. It was like within maybe like a half second. But then I realized they were telling me you got to work on the fundamentals, and that's when I really started focusing in on trail braking. Rotating the car, feeling it, going into it. Obviously, I learned kind of heel toe from the 997, and that is when I felt like the car, it just clicked on me.
It's like,
There's something about dive bombing a GT3 into a corner, waiting for the car to rotate, getting on the gas past the apex and just flying out of it.
Yeah.
It's just
Once it sets and goes,
it's euphoric.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love it. So that was one of the biggest things that made me really appreciate the GT3. And the way that I kind of set up my suspension is I had I would set up the sway bar middle setting, so I wanted the front end a little soft. So therefore, it would push a little bit, but then I would get the throttle and rotate it out, and then it was divine. And I was like, I'm never getting rid of this car ever again. So,
Yeah. Well, you did.
Yeah. I did. We'll get to that story. But I was gonna say, I was mentioning earlier about the DEs, the DE Cup and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was insane. So at the time, there was maybe, because you gotta understand, with the way the GT3s were back then, is that you had the 996, but the sales weren't really high with the 996.
This is still kind of a new thing for
Exactly.
everybody. Yeah.
And there was a couple of guys who really tracked the 996s, but they were a little down on power compared to 997. Not in any way ripping them. I'm just saying that from a DE perspective, they were kind of just do their own thing, and they had some good speed, and it was raw.
Yeah.
When the 997s came in, I kind of felt that they were people really started noticing them at DEs. They had really good power. The handling was exceptional. And then I would say the biggest thing that made the GT3 stand out with DEs was the reliability of the Porsche.
Yeah.
And so, at Sebring. So at Sebring, it would be August. It would be 95, 102 degrees outside, and that GT3 would just go and go and go. It would not have any hiccups whatsoever.
Yeah.
Versus typically the DEs that we would go to, because Florida's really tough on you. Corvettes, they would blow coolant. Vipers would always their brakes would go off, especially in a turn 7. Ferraris, we had a guy who would drive a Scuderia with us. After 10 laps, it would you'd have to pit it in or kind of go in limp mode and so forth. The GT3 was the only car that was just taking it. I
wonder if it's because they just really were worried about transitioning into that Cup Series
Yeah.
and really racing, and so they knew that we got to have this base car be pretty legit.
Oh, for sure. The 997, it's the pinnacle of the Mezger. They got everything right except for the coolant lines, okay?
Yeah,
pin your coolant lines.
Exactly, PSA. And why couldn't they fix that? They know it's a thing.
I know, it's ridiculous. And they were saying, they're oh, we don't really recognize it. And I'm like, I had a friend, Bishop's Bend. It blew on him,
Yeah.
And thank God, because Bishop's Bend, there's a lot of runoff. And he just spun 10 times, But when it happens, it's instantaneous. You have no control,
Yeah.
you know, because the coolant lines conveniently sit right above the rear tire.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's not
it's
going
just
to
like pouring like dish soap, and it just like
yeah,
flies.
you're not
around.
getting any more grass. It's like doing an oil change. It all comes out as
Yeah.
fast as it possibly can.
was
It's
crazy.
not gonna be a drip.
So it was crazy. So with the DEs, you know, because all this kind of centered around like Renlist,
Yeah.
and it went from like 6 guys, like 8 guys, 10 guys, and then I was telling you like it got up to 18 GT3s. You know,
That's just a lot of people in general,
yeah.
no matter like what
So
you're doing.
it got so out of control that I don't think they did it just for us, but I think that we played a role, you know. And so
Okay.
PBOC created a new run group called Super Solo.
Nice.
Have you ever heard of it? So Super Solo is like probably the closest thing you can get to like racing.
Okay.
So there's no point buys.
Yep.
It's basically it's open track, you know.
That's cool.
So we kind of abused the rights with the new one.
Yeah.
So like our first event, picture 18 GT3s, okay,
Yeah.
going 4 wide into like turn 1. You know,
All right,
that's
so
how
it's-
competitive.
it's a legit
it got.
race at this
Oh
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like people started complaining. They're like, they're too crazy, they're too wild out there. But that's how competitive that it got. You know.
No, you're not out there. It's fine. Just because you think it's too crazy. That's,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And it really was like one of the most special like times of my life. You know, where it was like the camaraderie that we had.
Oh, it has to be a tight knit group.
Oh,
like,
it was crazy. And you know what? That tight knit group kind of like, I think it kind of led to the demise a little bit because
Okay.
like people got too competitive. Cliques started forming. You know.
it happens.
Yeah, and then it's like, you know, this guy blocked that guy or that guy did this, and then it, you know, you're like, dude.
It's a rivalry now.
Yeah,
Like,
at the end of the day, like, you know, and then like, you know, there was a guy in the group that like, if he didn't win,
Yeah.
he wouldn't talk to anybody. Like
That's-
I'm talking, like he would just silence for 3 days, and then after the 3 days, if he started winning,
Yeah.
oh.
Then he
he's-
show back up and let
he's
everybody know he won.
smiling.
Yeah.
He's like, "What's up, guys? How you doing?"
Yeah.
You know. So it you know, but I think that kind of led to how crazy it got.
Mm.
But it got to a point where, two of the lead guys who did it went to SEMA,
Yeah.
and then went to the PFC booth and said, like, "Listen, we have a brake issue. We need better brakes for center locks."
Mm.
And so PFC. They kind of like really listened, and they created like rotors and pads, you know,
Well,
for the
you
center
do a group
locks.
order that big. I'm sure
It was
they're like-
crazy, man. It was insane for that. And I mean, that entire run group became like a PFC sponsor.
That's cool.
We just kept like, and the consumables was insane. There was points where we were DEing. I think a couple months we did it all 4 weekends. You know,
Okay.
but we would average like 2 to 3 weekends a month. So the tires. So okay, I know I'm a little scatterbrained. But the rule with the DE Cup is that there wasn't a lot of cheater parts allowed.
Okay.
So you had to be on a radial, you know, and you couldn't like go into the transmission because at that time it was just suspension work and then tires. So
Yeah.
we're like no slicks, you know. So we figured out that at the time NT01s. They weren't making a solid 305 tire. They're making a 305/30, not a 35.
Okay.
So the 997 would the PASM would freak out in the braking, you know. So like it would kind of like flutter, and so
Yep.
you couldn't track with it. So the tire that we found was a RA1, but they were slowly going out of production.
Okay. Well.
So again, how competitive it was.
Yeah.
There was guys that were calling around the country and buying up warehouses. I'm not joking with you. Warehouses, they would be like, "What's your inventory of RA1s?" And they're like, "Oh, we have like 20 sets." And they're like, "We'll buy all of them." And then they would store it at like their warehouse, and they would take the whole country's, you know,
Yeah.
supply of
There's-
RA1s.
Who's got these? Well, I know a guy. Yeah.
It was wild. And then he would like flex. He's like, "I got them," you know? And we're just like, oh. So we had to write Nitto and beg them to make a 35 series tire, you know? It was either 35 or 40. I forget exactly what
Yeah.
it was. And that is the only, like, that's how.
Again, you guys are being innovative in the space just because of natural ability.
It was
and that.
crazy. I mean, we're adults and we all do work and we own our businesses
Yeah.
and we're like calling Nitto and we're like, "You got to make this tire. We have to do this."
And
you
I'm
know?
sure that rep was like, this is like the 5th time, 6th time.
Oh,
We're
fifth
like,
time.
can we
It was
do
like the 80th time. We would put posts on Renlist and saying, "Everyone email like Nito right now. You know, it was like we needed the tire.
Nice. He's like the GT3 mafia.
Yeah, because at the time the R888s were out, and I don't like the R888s personally.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, and the GT3 like it takes too many heat cycles to get them right, and then after a certain point, the slip angle it just goes real fast, and then you're just like so it's just. The NT01, it's such a better tire, especially because you can drive there and so forth. But anyway, so we would travel. We were the first DE like to go to Coda, when they opened it over there, which is crazy. But it got so cutthroat that at certain tracks, buddies would sneak. Like a buddy of mine snuck into my RV and stole my TrackMate data because he was so mad. And he's like,
what's happening here?
Reviewing it. He's like, how are you beating me on these 3 turns?
Yeah.
It was really cool. And so
did it actually help him or did it?
What happened?
So did that help him or did it?
It did because he found out that I was short shifting into a turn and I was carrying the torque, so I could carry a lot more speed into it and I was much more stable versus he was at red line,
Yeah.
It was, I almost died, but I figured it out, we won.
Still here.
But yeah, so it was, I don't know, man. It was, and I think, and I was telling you about this, I don't think it was obviously like the sole reason, but I think it played a role into the GT3 becoming known as this amazing driving, reliable DE car, you know, because constantly we would get drivers that would come up to us and they're like, what the F, these you guys are flying past us, and then they ask us about reliability issues and we're like, no, we have no problems whatsoever, we pin the lines and that's it, and they're kind of shocked by it because out of those 18 GT3s I was telling you, there was a guy that was so pissed that he was losing that the next weekend he just went and he just picked up a 4.0, and at the time it's kind of crazy to think of a guy going in for a 4.0. But in that time, 2010 to 2000, I would say 13, 14, the GT3s collected dust. They didn't sell for over market, They could not sell these cars at the dealerships.
Well, they're misunderstood, or not misunderstood, but it's not.
Yeah, it was weird. I can't put my finger on what caused this change, with people buying Scuderias, like specialty cars, and it going over. But with the GT3, it just it literally collected dust. They had listed, I think the MSRP for the RS outside was 155, and they're pricing it 150, 140. They're just they just want to get them out, which is kind of crazy that the guy just walked in and bought a 4.0 like that.
Yeah, they're walking in anywhere.
But in that DE, we had I think 3 or 4 4.0s in it. With they have the magnesium, not magnesium, sorry, the front ends with the carbon fiber, D'ing through the tracks, things are hitting it, and they're just kind of whatever. And I'm just, nobody cared. We're just laughing about it,
just enjoying your time.
I had, just to give you an example, we did a DE at Daytona. I think I was on the bank. I was going 100 and I think I was around 186 or so, and a Viper blows his motor in front of me, and I'm just seeing the piston bouncing towards me.
Wow, that is
and I have my Hans device and I look ridiculous, but I'm thinking that's gonna save my life.
Yeah.
But it bounced 2 times off. So it bounced 2 times off your hood.
Okay.
Sorry. And then it went over the car.
Yeah.
But just about life back then, we laughed about it. We put a big marker on the hood, and it was a trophy.
That's
it wasn't
cool.
we were making the cars cool and special.
Yeah.
That was really cool. That was some of the craziest experiences I've ever had. We went to Road Atlanta. The guys did a tour. We would meet up with the West Coast run listers.
Okay.
And it just kind of turned into this giant. We called it the DE Cup. So we would have these run-ins and who was going to win the DE Cup and stuff like that. But eventually, all good things come to an end. A couple of guys wanted to go into actual racing, so they bought some cup cars.
Yeah.
I think because we did it so much.
Yeah, at this point you're spending.
Yeah, it's dude, I know I keep rambling on about this, but just to give you an example of how cutthroat this was, okay, is guys were hiring professional coaches at the DEs, and it wasn't to gain seconds at a time.
Yeah.
It was to gain a tenth of a second at a time. So we hired this guy. I think his name was Chris Harris or Charles Harris. He's a driver from the UK, not like the Chris Harris. And he came over and he coached us. He was, I think he was a half a second off my lap, and he pulled in and he, did a couple runs with us.
Yeah.
And he was like, I have never seen anything like this in the world. I've never seen a group like this with the same cars, this competitive and this fast. And he was like kind of annoyed. He's like, you guys should not be in DE. You guys should be running like, cup cars.
That's a
like,
regular race.
Yeah. He's like, you should not be in this. Like, this is ridiculous, I thought it was cool.
I mean, but it also shows you too, if you stick with that your same platform and really get to know it and really go with the tracks and learn your craft, how well and how good you can get at it versus just
100%.
Versus just jumping into the next thing because you think you progressed that.
100%. I never thought about it from that perspective, but you are right. That like, because we were doing the DEs and like nobody really wanted to get out, and because we had such a love for the Mezger and for the 997, that we really learned those cars. I was even like getting into like left foot braking a little bit, and so this is what made me love Porsche in general, and this is what I think. So like the 991, 992 platforms, I think because they moved the engine up a little bit, I think it behaves a little bit more like a mid-engine car than it does like a rear-engine car. I understand 997 is not as rear as like a 993, 964, but still, I think it behaves more like a rear engine car. And so what I found that was addicting and dangerous is that like when you drive 997, at least in my experience, at like 8/10, and you're pushing it and you're trail braking and you're dancing, like it is euphoric. It's to master a 911 like that. You can. I think that you can jump in any other car, because you can do on a car. You learn the balance. You can, you brake hard, slow in, fast out, but with the weight of the engine above the rear tires, and you fly. I mean, a car would be like 6 car lengths, away from me, and after one turn, I would be on his bumper. It's just flying in, trail braking, like feeling the car, waiting for it to rotate, and then getting on the gas past apex. It's just the best thing in the world, and it made me addicted to the 997 platform. That's why I'll like never get rid of it.
That's cool.
So, but anyway, so yeah, all good things come in end, and then I got like pretty burnt out by like DEing.
Well, I mean, you're running a race series without running a race series.
Exactly, and honestly, like I said, people sold. Those guys won the Cup Car racing.
They got 991s at that point, or still 997s?
I think they jumped into. I think there was a window where they jumped into. I mean, I think that it did come out 991s, but I think before they experimented with Cup cars with like 997, 996.
That would make sense.
Yeah, and then a couple of guys went into the 991, and listen, they weren't fooling anybody. You could tell that like. They loved the fact that they were crushing lap times, because the 991 was a big leap forward in terms of tech from the 997, I mean, it feels like it's two different worlds. So they were crushing lap times, but when you really like started peeling back the layers, they're like, yeah, you got to drive it different. It's just kind of like, and eventually you're like, yeah, you're driving like a PlayStation,
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like, give like a little nudge.
Flick the paddle.
Yeah,
that's it.
And so this is what I've heard. Like, and I've taught a couple of guys in D's with the 991, 992 platform. And the thing for me is, and I might sound like a old geezer at this point, like the get off my lawn guy.
Yeah.
But what I did not like that I saw is that on the 997, and this is strictly for people who have a passion for like learning their cars.
Yeah.
On 997, yes, you had stability control and traction control, and yes, it would save me from like wrecking the car. But like once you get to a certain skill level, you turn it off and you really learn the car. But my point is that like outside of that, the car, you still had to drive the car.
Yeah.
The car would still wiggle, it's do everything. When I was teaching students in the 991. There is so many times that they should be dead,
Yeah.
But you could literally feel the car like
figuring
braking,
things out
in each corner and controlling it and setting the car right, and then he would just like go into straight. That I don't think that people realize how much they're losing, like losing the ability to like learn how to drive. You know,
Well, that's a different connectedness than.
Well, but it's not only different connectedness. It's I think it's giving them a false sense of confidence. You know, that they're like, oh yeah, like I mean, I'll give you an example. Like so in Sebring when I was driving 997, like in like a low 220s was like awesome. You know. And so, like, for me to get from, like, a 226 to, like, a 223 at Sebring, it took, like, a lot of work, you know?
Yeah.
And it was, like, refining and, like, you know, going over certain turns. Okay, I nailed this turn, but I didn't get that turn. On the 991, right out of the gate, a novice, he was doing, like, 218. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, like, now the 992 RS, I think they're doing, like, 213s, 212s or something like that. But my point is that, like, at that 226, I was still scared refining the thing. At the 218 with the guy in 991, he didn't even have like a beat of sweat off his. Like, that was great. This car's awesome. Let's keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but you're not learning how to drive, you know? That might be my get off my lawn
Maybe
moment,
but,
you know?
But also if he has no point of reference,
Yeah.
then like this is the best thing he's ever done.
Yeah, and my philosophy about it, like my mindset about it, is that like I think that when the more you learn the car on a DE at a racetrack, the more better driver you are in the street. You know, the more like careful you are, and the more you respect the power of the car. You know, and so that's what I think sometimes is that like with the newer tech, they have so much tech in them that, you know, that guy in 991 will upgrade to a 992 or might upgrade to like, I don't know, maybe like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something like that. I'm assuming he's progressing.
Yeah.
And they don't respect the power. And like they might get themselves in a little bit of a pickle when they're driving on the street, you know? So, okay, maybe I am that get off my lawn guy. Sorry.
Everyone's got their opinion, you know, so it's fine.
But yeah, that was like the biggest difference that I found with 991, 992 versus 997, and that's why I cherish 997. That's why I think it's the pinnacle of Porsche. You know?
How long did you own my GT3 before you got the RS?
So I want to say that I owned it up until I want to say maybe 17, I think. Okay. And so. Your car has like a lot of stories.
I'm right at like,
okay.
If you got, I mean, we have time.
Yeah. So not only what did it, so if you think about it, back to the story. So like I bought the GT3, then I found your car. Okay. And then I bought it from the guy. Had the dealership that was crazy. They did the whole deal. So then I DE'd it, you know, and I had a lot of pride because that car would keep up with the RSs. You know, there's certain tracks that the gearing and the skinnies actually are advantageous to us.
Really?
So, like for instance, have you DE'd at Sebring?
Not with that car.
We're gonna make you do it.
Okay.
So, for instance, like there's turn 10. You know, and on the RS, their gearing they have to go into third gear. So they have to carry their torque out versus in our car, you can put it in the second and we can launch out of the corner. And so you would like start beating the RSs sometimes. I love that car. But anyway, so I DE'd it for a long time, had all these experiences in it. And then I was expanding my restaurants and one of them failed. So I had to get rid of it and I sold it to a doctor. But I cherished that car so much. And you got to understand, I never thought I would ever get an RS. So a couple years later, I stay in touch with the guy on Renlist. Yeah. He's actually terrified of the car. He's back to what we're talking about, you know, that he's like, this car's like, he's like, when I drive on the street, it's like, you know, like it just handles so well, but it's kind of like, you know, he didn't have a lot of confidence driving it.
It's different for sure. Like if you've never felt like just lifting off a little bit and that whole the car moves, it's because it should move.
Yeah, it's a driver's car. So, yeah, it's a driver's car. Like you gotta like earn to drive that thing.
I didn't get in there. I let a friend drive mine, and then like we were going to like up over a hill and like to a left.
Yeah,
he never really. I don't think he's driven a GT car like that, and it's set up. He let off, and I just felt the car move, and it was the most unnerving feeling,
especially from your perspective.
Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, you can't do that in this car," because he had a 997, but like, he had a quirks.
See, that's what I'm saying.
It was fine, but like I was like, you can't. Like this car was just not like it. Just like coming off throttle because you think it's cool. Like
correct. You know, like you got to respect the car. You know,
all right, so anyway,
it's a car that. you could say, because I have a 964 and some other cars, you could say that those cars, like, yeah, the older cars communicate, but in terms of a modern car that was built in 2010, I think that the 997 is one of the most like communicating cars like out there. It really, the feedback from the steering wheel, from like the chassis and like how it rotates and everything else, like it just speaks to you all day long if you know how to listen. Which could get you in trouble if somebody doesn't know the car. So the guy, it had gone up a little bit in price at that time. And basically I asked him, I was like, well, can I buy back my original car? And he's like, yes. He's like, take it, So I think I paid like 95 for it. I sold it to him for 92 and I bought it for 95.
Okay.
And at that point I was like, this is like, I'm going to keep this car forever. Well, your boy Niko has ADHD, and so like, I started kind of noticing RSs, and you don't understand. It's funny, with all the stories I told you about DEs and everything, I've never actually driven a RS.
No, you just didn't you didn't ask. Like the same thing you asked me about a car before. I was like, no, I haven't driven one, but people, you just don't think to ask.
It's weird.
Because you're like, I like my thing.
And then if they drive, and then like, if you're a passenger, you can't feel like, you can't really notice it.
I also don't want the thing that I'm about to drive unless I really am in a position to purchase that thing. So
that's a very smart, mature like mindset to have,
But I wouldn't mind driving it, but I know that that's just gonna, if it is better, that's just gonna be something in the back of my brain. Like, all right, well, can I make it? Would I have to that level? Probably not.
Yeah.
To be honest, no matter how much you tweak
basically,
something.
do you want to be crazy irresponsible?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I am, Yeah, so it started kind of coming on my radar about the RS and so forth, and I started like kind of asking around. I was like, okay, because at this time they were like, I think they were like in the 150 range, 140 range, maybe even like a little cheaper because I think I overpaid for mine. I think they were in like the 120s, 130s, and like I didn't become like huge successful. I think it was a part of like that I paid off the GT. I had owned the GT3 long enough where I paid it slower. So I found and they never made 997 in black, which is ridiculous. It's only the 4.0, which my AMX cannot cover that. So I found a gray black. So I'm like, okay, I'll do a gray black and I'll put accents on it. Because I don't know if you know this, like all my cars are black. Did you know that?
I was gonna ask.
Yeah. So it's a thing. Listen, I'm Greek. Like, I want all the cars black. It's just, it's pathetic.
Just heals your heart when you see it black. You're like,
listen, you gotta have stances in life, okay? This is my stance, okay? So the gray black was gonna be like the closest I can get. It's gonna bother me. Those are the closest I can get. So I found one in Seattle, all the mods that I wanted on it, and I loved.
What were you looking for as far as like mods and things?
Pin lines, honestly, suspension components, and then I didn't ask for this, but I got lucky. The guy gave me 2 sets of wheels, OZs and BBS EO7s. Then he gave me an extra set of Brembo rotors and pads. It's like $3,000, He just gave me everything. He gave me like all the stock components. He gave me so much stuff. I had to get like those. Have you ever seen those portable U-Hauls?
Yeah.
I had to like send it over there and load everything into the car. Or sorry, into this little pod.
Yeah, little pod.
Because I want to do a road trip with it. So I have a thing. I hate collectors, okay? I like people who collect cars, but I like that they use it, It's, what was it? Jerry Seinfeld has that quote that says like a Porsche with low miles is like the most tragic thing ever, Is like a Porsche that's never, like it's
never been driven.
It's terrible, I totally butchered that line, by the way.
Yeah.
So I like to do road trips in all my cars. So I was like, well, fuck it. I've always heard about this PCH,
Yeah. Let's see what it's about.
I cussed. Is that okay?
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
I apologize. So I did the trip, and then it was in Seattle, Washington. And I drove the PCH from Seattle to all the way down to LA. It took me about 2 weeks.
I'd imagine so. That's long.
It was honestly one. I'll send you pictures of it, but it was one of the coolest experiences in my life, And then you know what? Like for anybody who wants to do that trip, and if you ever want to do that trip,
well, I'm talking about doing a Strasse out in the West Coast next year. So what I want to do is
nice.
pardon this ad. But so around this time next year, because they always do air and water now, or at least that's being a thing.
Okay.
And I talked to Patrick the year before about getting some spots and kind of rolling in as a group. But I want to do like Monterey area. That's when it's not car week.
Yeah.
Roll all the way down from Monterey to LA. And
Okay.
then do some PEC stuff and just be
Nice.
kind of chill. So that's what I hope. I have enough West Coast people are asking me about doing something there.
Okay.
And I was like, I figure, well, if I ship my car there or drive it, because that was also another thing too. I thought about driving from here
Flat
to.
drive.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to do it like kind of film it and let Porsche, you know, they
Nice.
like driving videos
Okay.
and stuff. So I'd figure something out like that. But yeah.
Yeah.
So I might do something West Coast.
Maybe like ship it like halfway, maybe like Colorado or something
yeah,
like that.
and just drive it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was I like Utah? Or I have some friends
Okay.
that did something like that. And they
Utah's.
I've never been up that way. I want to experience it.
Do you mind about the miles? Or no.
No.
So if you don't mind about the miles, personally, I would start in Colorado.
Okay.
Because then you can go to the Moab Desert.
Okay.
And Moab is eastern Utah. And so from there, it's a gorgeous drive. You follow the Colorado River. It's an amazing drive. And then once you get to Moab, then you can cut across Utah.
Yeah.
And that is where you start your, that's like, because I'm telling you, Utah, it's like something out of a different planet. Like from West Utah to East Utah, it's
Yeah.
like two different states.
Really?
Yeah, because Moab is like full desert with like these crazy formations.
Mm.
But then when you get in the West Coast, that's Zion.
Okay.
And so it's all green and all red. It's so sick. So if you could do that, I would like highly recommend that.
Man, that might be something. That'd probably be good points to like pick up some people in Colorado, pick them up in Utah, and then kind of make that whole
That would be
pilgrimage,
awesome.
and then people from Cali and Washington can
Yeah.
all meet up. And yeah, I got some. The thing is so far is finding like lodging that's going to hold everybody, because on those coasts there's some things here and there, so it's probably going to have to be like, limited. Not that I would want it limited, but.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like that might be like tough and stuff like that. Or it's like, you know what, like just do like general vicinities. Like this is kind of where we're gonna
Yeah,
stop.
that's true
and just
too.
Kinda,
Yeah, pop in, pop out.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing that I would tell you about the PCH, which nobody really told me about this, and I was kind of surprised.
It's not really all like from when I drove it. I was a the Big Sur style. Like it wasn't as maintained as I would figure it to be. Like North Carolina.
No, yeah, it's not. Yeah,
So there's that.
yeah.
So
sure.
what's your pro tip?
Boy, everyone always talks about Big Sur. They're like Big Sur, PCH, Big Sur.
yeah.
Honestly, I would argue that Northern California and Southern Oregon
Yeah.
is exponentially more beautiful than Big Sur.
Okay.
Because first of all, Big Sur, like, so that's what's crazy about that trip is that like you're going through so many different climates,
Yeah.
you know. So like in Oregon, it's like all like this Goonies, like the mist, you
Yeah.
know, and it's much more humid. So there's like it's so green, and then right when you get past like San Fran a little bit, it just you literally it's like a wall at Big Sur, and you just
Yeah.
feel the change in temperature, and it's like extremely dry, you know. But to this day, like Northern California, it's by Crescent City. It's like it was one of the best driving roads I've ever been in my life. You know, it was like brand new paved, like
okay.
full camber turns. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
no one around, and I'm talking like it's like a 30-minute drive from end to end, and then it's crazy as you come out of these S's, and it's like deep wooded area.
Yeah.
You just come out of it. And all of a sudden, there's just like, I'm telling you, it's out of a movie. There's like two cliffs, and you just see the PCH. And then you just get on there, and that is how you enter.
Yeah. Sold me. I'm in.
Dude, I'll show you pictures of it, and I'll tell you where to go. If you can somehow do that, I think that's like incredible. Like, and then like there's, cause also, so I do a lot of road trips.
Okay.
But with the road trips, I think that like what people should consider is not only like the singular driving aspect. I think you should look at like how things kind of like certain characteristics or quirks or something cool that like you can tie into your drive.
Yeah.
That's not just about the drive. So the thing about like Northern California, for instance, is there's this area. It's called I think it's called like Road of the Gods, and what it is that it's a Samuel Boardman area. And it's basically a driving road through the redwood trees.
Oh, that'd be cool.
But it's like specifically paid for that. So like, why would you not want to take your 997?
Yeah.
and drive through the redwoods? There's literally nowhere else on earth that you can do that drive.
Yeah.
You know. So I like to like kind of mix in that kind of stuff, and then like there's There's like really interesting stuff. There's like Glass Beach. I don't know if you ever heard of that. There's Glass Beach. It was a dumping ground for glass back in the industrial age.
Okay.
And through the years they closed it off, and through the years through like erosion and through it's made all the bottles into like little pretty rocks.
Oh, because of the
Yeah. So it's literally an entire beach, and it's all like glass pebbles.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's like green, purple. This is the kind of stuff that, you know, I don't think that you're gonna experience that with Big Sur,
Yeah.
you know. But if you do like a San Francisco forward, there's a lot of really cool stuff. Like the beach is at Fort Bragg, but there's cool, unique stuff on there that like it just kind of. And to bring it back to the 997, I think it really solidifies like like your emotional attachment to the car. You know, that you're having these like cool memories with this car that like they'll never be able to make again, and that it is turning into a classic. It's considered a classic already.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, so I did that drive for 2 weeks and then dropped it off in LA and then had it shipped back to Tampa.
Did you
Florida.
know it was going to take you 2 weeks, or you were kind of just like, all right, we're going to start here? And
No, I was very irresponsible.
Yeah.
I just said no. I was just like I would try to do like a couple days because I had never done like Portland and San Francisco and so forth.
Yeah.
So I would mix in like 3 days in Seattle, 3 days in Portland, San Fran, and then LA. But you know, those cities were cool, but I think the real like meat and potatoes was like these little quirky small towns. You know, like have you ever heard of Carmel by the Sea?
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the best. I mean, it's a car guy's thing, but like
Yeah.
that you know, nobody really talked about it. So like just stumbling upon it, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, unless you go to Car Week, you don't know where that's
Yeah.
at. And then there's so many different, like I was saying, there's so many different like little lodges and things. There's some good sized properties like actual like Marriott's and that thing. But there's also like the mom and pop stuff that's right on like
Of
the
course.
cliffs, and there's some restaurants are the same thing. Like that'd be the things to hit and stay
For
in.
sure.
And, like it's like a motel, but it's on the ocean.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
exactly. And honestly, like, you know, this is like one of the, like, of course, you know, I love doing road trips with like my girlfriend and so forth. But one of the biggest advantage of going on a road trip with a guy, by yourself, is that like we're dudes, you know. So like,
Don't need much.
There'd be days where like I could not find anything, and it was like a Motel 6, you know, and it would be like $37, and I'm just like, you know, just like
it's a bed.
You know, a girl would never put up with that. Would have to find like some nice hotel, but I'm just like, all right, it's a bed, it's a shower. I'm getting out of here, like, and I'm done. You know, so like those moments where I'm like, okay, like score, like $50 for this stay.
Not Half Moon Bay. All right.
Yeah, nice. So like, so I did that road trip, and I had it sent back, and I loved it. Like I forgot to talk about the driving dynamics, but really. They are essentially the same car. I don't think the horsepower is like it's negligible, but I would say the lightweight flywheel, it's really noticeable. You know, I love it. I know people like kind of get annoyed with the chatter, but I just think it's another thing that adds to the character of the car.
Yeah, that's another ambiance thing when you're just sitting at the light and it's just going.
And then they had a shorter ring and pinion on it.
Okay.
So like, yeah, it was like, you know, driving it, like when you would change gears, the revs would stay like in the right range, you know? And I fell in love with the RS. I was like, this is like the best car, you know? And then just looking at the mirrors and seeing like the hips, you know, you're just like, this car's great, you know?
That wing looks good too. Like they really did a good job of making it like really different from the GT3. Yeah,
exactly. And you know what, like there is such a thing as like too much wing, you know? And it's like, I love the 992, but you kind of look like that guy if you go to like a Friday night dinner in a 992, you know, where it's like listen, if people are not like, if a grandma walks past it, she's taking herself out on that wing, you know, like she is knocking herself out. It's that high.
It's like a full scale picnic table.
So, and again, I might be biased, but like with the 997, I do appreciate that, like it is like subtle where you can still take it out and like you're not like look at me. That's what I love about the 997 is that it's you know it's understated, but at the same time you're like something's different about that car. You know, I love it. But yeah, like so I mean, and honestly, in 2 weeks because you have the buckets in yours still, right?
Yeah.
The buckets didn't bother me at all. They're more comfortable.
I would definitely say that if anybody's looking at buckets, and well, I mean, they're a little bit more pricey now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're super comfortable. I've never had sofas. I don't know.
Yeah, I just
the difference, but
sofas.
I've been everywhere back and forth to North Carolina so many times now.
Yeah.
And it's not been like I don't have back issues or anything like that. And
I mean, maybe like worst case, I'll just take a t-shirt and kind of like do like a little bit more lumbar. But like there was times I would do like 7-hour stints, driving. And I'm like, I loved it. Everyone was like, oh my God, like you're probably dying in that car. And I'm like, no, it was great.
I think that's another thing. Like when you talk about size, I think that seat, no, it doesn't fit absolutely every body type. But I think from that going to the generation of 9 and 1, like I feel like loose in those bucket seats from me, like shoulder perspective versus the 997, where I feel like I'm in there. I don't need it to be shifted or anything like that. I'm fine how it sits. But I think Ricardo did a really good job. Like with all the padding and things like that.
Sure, of course, absolutely. Well, that was like when the D's, we were ridiculous. We would take the cushions out to have like a lower like line of sight, or whatever. So stupid. It was like that was ridiculous. Things got out of hand. So like I fell in love with the 997 and with the RS. Yeah. I had it and I enjoyed it. And then in the meantime, I have a friend of mine, and he's like, you're never gonna believe this. And he's like, I found there's this guy that lives in Boston, and he has a PTS Black 997. Okay. And I was like, no way. And I was like, that's so crazy. And so I went on Instagram and I befriended him. Such a nice guy. Like he's awesome. And like I did the typical like, dude, if you ever sell, like please.
Like this is going in the ether. No, he's not gonna.
Yeah, and he's just like, yeah, okay, like sure, like if I sell, whatever, And I want to say like maybe like a year or two like went by, and I loved it. I put some nice accents on the gray black one. It was a great car, it was awesome. Actually, it was gray black with white gold.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was nice. It was such a beautiful car. It was clean. And then all of a sudden, just one day, I just get a DM from the guy, and he goes, I have to move back to Taiwan. And he's like, if you want the car, he's like, this is what the broker set the price, or this is what I think that I can get the car at. Yeah. And he's like, you have to buy it. And so he's like, if you want it, you want it. And I was like, oh my God, So picture this. I just think about this. I bought a GT3. Yep. I sold it from the dealer to buy your car. Yep. Then I bought your car back. Yep. Then I buy this RS. And then I've like had it for a little bit, and then all of a sudden within a week I have to buy this like 997. My parents were like so ashamed of my presence, they're like,
I think he has a problem, but
exactly. And so at the time it was the PTS thing wasn't big at the time, it was like it was kind of cool if you had it.
Trend setting again.
Yeah, and especially ridiculous to spend money for a black PTS. My friends are like, dude, if you're gonna get a PTS, get like some
a wild color, like everybody.
And so I asked all my friends, and they're like, you're crazy. The price was about $50,000 more than market, and everyone's like, you're so stupid. I can't believe you're gonna spend $50,000 just for paint. Yeah. And I had one friend, and he goes, if you don't do this, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. And he's like, just do it, just overpay, And so I had to find like an emergency buyer for my gray black. Yeah. I have a buddy of mine in Orlando that like, I think he did your car. Yeah. And then he did the gray black one. Okay. Saved my life. He I could feel the judgment on the phone. He's like, are you serious? And I'm like, I need you to sell the second 997, please. And he's just like, okay. So we do the whole thing, and I mean, this is like my dream car, man. This is like, to say, I think black PTS, there's 11, I think 11 to 12 in the world.
Low number.
Yeah, I think there's 7 in the United States. And so this guy was in Boston, of course, like how
road trip
ridiculous, And so the craziest thing about this one is that it had 7,000 miles on it.
Okay.
And so I had a couple of people, this is why I hate collectors, So I had a couple of people, and they're like, you have to ship it down, because like because it's basically like, you know how collecting cars, like with collectors, like when it has like 4 digits.
Yeah, there's a certain number. If it starts crossing that, then
so
depreciation.
Like if it's 3 digits, so if it has like, even if it has 900 miles on it, you know, if you bring it to 1100 and it goes to 4 digits, the price goes down significantly.
Yeah.
I don't care about these values, but anyway, it's just the point my friend was like kind of trying to give me perspective. And he was saying, if you do this road trip, you're going to knock a significant amount off this car, you know, because you're going to eclipse 10,000. And I was just like, I don't care. Like, no way.
Yeah.
So I flew up to Boston. It was during COVID. So like everything was shut down, and picked it up from Boston and decided to road trip it all the way down to Florida, you know?
Nice.
So
some of the most empty roads you've ever been on?
Dude, especially empty, talk about Manhattan. So I was driving down Manhattan and there wasn't a car in the road. It was so trippy. I'm like going like towards the Empire State Building, and there's maybe 2 cars on the road. It was something like I forget what the 28 days or whatever, like in London. It was like newspapers were like going across the road, and I'm like, this is like wild, you know? Also, the world is ending, and I just got like a new Porsche. You know?
Go me!
And I was like, this is the best thing to do right now. So I road tripped from New York to Philadelphia. I was kind of surprised that Philadelphia was more closed than New York. You know, I was kind of shocked by that. But had to get a Philly cheesesteak. See Rocky. Do the basics.
Steps.
Went to DC. And then from DC, that is when I decided to shift towards the Blue Ridge Mountains. So I went through like Virginia, like I think Roanoke or whatever. Blue Ridge Mountains were like absolutely, like they were so nice, they were so cool. But what I found was that like the more I went down, the more I got better. So when I was asking people about this road trip, they would say, oh, the Blue Ridge is awesome, or like you got to go to the Dragon or whatever. I found Helen Ring so much better than
there's so many roads around there.
It's insane.
That are unnamed service roads. And just things that people, if you're local, you know. If you don't, then
and I got like a tip from like a run lister, like, you know, because it was kind of cool. As I was doing the trip, I was kind of posting updates and like asking people's opinions. And then this guy was like, "Oh, you got to go Helen Ring," and I'm like, "What's Helen Ring? I don't know." I thought that after the Dragon, it was just going to be like Georgia straight roads. I was blown away, you know. So like unfortunately the Dragon was closed, you know, like to do some like cool stuff, but I went through it. Can I say it's a little overrated?
I think anybody that's done it and then done something else kind of feels the same way, because there's just a different, there's cool aspects of it. I think it's just a bucket list check. You did it.
I think you're right.
I think for like an actual like driving road, I mean, it's dangerous for sure. There's that. But there's so many different winding roads where you can carry speed, or technical roads that are near rivers. They're more picturesque.
For sure.
And then a lot less traveled. And I think that's the other thing when you really run into traffic. It's just like anything else. Nürburgring on a bad day, you got traffic. Like it's plan accordingly. Do things like, so for instance, for the drive that we do in September, like I do breakfast runs. At least that's what I call them. So 7 o'clock in the morning when it's kind of dark outside, we run the Dragon. And then so it's like nothing up there, no cops, no cars. And then on the way back down, the sun starts coming back up. So
that's cool.
So that we get that done before breakfast. So if you run a clean run, you get a clean run on the road. That makes a difference. But outside of that, there's just so many good roads and cliff facing and just twisties, and
that's cool.
It's just stuff you want to do that, like literally there is a service road that dead ends to nothing. And we had to call in the state guy and like, hey, can you mow this because it's been overgrown? That sort of thing.
No way.
Yeah. So then like had the pass to go up there and just chill at the overlook, that sort of thing. And
that's awesome.
I would say that I think it's overrated in some aspects. It's a great road. There's nothing like that, and that I've come across, even like the West Coast.
Real quick, I was going to say, because you're saying driving at night, just a little snippet to go back to the DE days. Have the I don't know if they still do it or not, but they used to do DEs at night at Sebring.
That'd be cool.
That was cool. Yeah, but like it's a whole different style of driving. You know, it's like you got to kind of like
how lit is that? Well, I mean, I guess I've been to.
It's not really as lit.
12 hours, but
honestly, it's not as lit as you think. Like you go through Bishop's Bend, you know, and you're just kind of like, you know, and you're like, I hope the car's kind of pointed right. I mean, you can't go obviously as fast, you know, but it it's cool, man. From a human perspective, you know, it just heightens like all your senses. You're even more focused and dialed in, you know, because you're, instead of looking for like, because you can see everything, you're like really paying attention to like inputs. So like there's like a little bump until like turn 7, and I would like wait for that little feel on my heel, and then I would start braking because you can't really like see, you know, it's like sometimes really anyway, sorry. I love
Did you do any other tracks at night?
Did I do any other tracks?
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah. So we did I would say me personally, I did Roebling Road, Daytona, Sebring. Road Atlanta is one of my more favorite tracks I went to. Yeah. We did VIR, the Skip Barber, like in Alabama. Yeah. That's actually a cool track. I like that track a lot. I think that's it, if I'm not remembering. The other guys, they did the whole country. Okay. So they did. They went all the way to the West Coast to like Thunder Hill and everything, and then on top of it, they went back and they would do like Montreal, like Mid Ohio, Road America,
and the whole IMSA circuit.
Yeah, and you know what I remember specifically about it was that like the track that they would rave about the most was Texas Speedway.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a track that was basically like falling apart. Like there would be like huge dirt, like patches of asphalt that were like ripped out, and then like as they were going on the bank, the stands were like collapsing. You know, it was like like really bad. But they said it was like one of the coolest experiences because I think it might have been like an old NASCAR, like not NASCAR. I think it is. So like it was one of those tracks where like you go around, but then you would like there was an area where you would like go across, like in an infields kind of thing. And they said it was like so trippy that you're seeing other cars whiz by, and you're kind of like, you know, they said it was like awesome, you know. They like really like loved that track. But yeah, they traveled like the country. I think I did Laguna Seca also. Now it's so many years ago. I'm like trying to remember the tracks that I went to. And Watkins Glen. I did Watkins Glen.
I hear good things about Watkins.
Watkins Glen is so nice. It's like the private condos like you see there. You want to feel poor, you know? You go there, you're like, I have 997. Like, you know, like this is nice, you know? And then you see like the guy like flying with the helicopter, just go to his condo, you know? And I'm just like, okay, nice. That's great.
One day, not now.
Yeah. You're just eating like your stale, like, you know, Starbucks like sandwich, you know, just like ripping the bread off, you know? But yeah, like anyway, yeah. So those tracks, I know I kind of like went off with the road trip, but with the road trip, so back to Dragon a little bit. Yeah. I think also the reason why people maybe think it's like overrated is I think like with time, cars have gotten faster, cars have gotten bigger, you know. And I think the real appeal of the Dragon is like if you have like that small lightweight like car like chassis like a Miata or or a Cayman or something like that. That car is like perfect for that track, like an agile, small, you know, short wheelbase car.
You can rev it out. You can feel everything.
Yeah, and you know what? Like there's no excess power where it's like you're like losing control. You know, where it's like you're flying on the corners.
So supposedly, I heard maybe a couple times when I was up there. The locals, they do night races with night vision goggles.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So full lights out, everything. And there's a Miata that's the king of the cars over there.
That's actually cool.
That's just something I heard. I was like, all right, I don't know how true this is.
If it is true, I wish I was that young to do that cool stuff. But now I have a conscience, and I'm like, I can't do it anymore. But that's something that would be like, let's do it.
That's pretty good. You know? That's pretty legit.
That's awesome. But yeah, like, that Helen Ring, like,
for those that don't know, the Helen Ring is you can stay in the Helen area. So Helen, Georgia is like a German-esque town. It used to be full. Like people from Munich would come in.
Oh, really?
Because the first time I did it was Soho back in the day. Like I don't know, Soho 3. Like we're older, so like the beginning of Soho. And there was where was I at? The Heidelberg or one of the restaurants, and the lady was like, "Yeah, I come in from Munich every year, and I do this," and because she was giving me shit about ordering a Stella versus a Hefeweizen, which I didn't live in Germany at the time, so I didn't know. But yeah, but now it's kind of like just southern Georgia. So that kind of loses some of that aspect, but it's a German town, and they kind of keep to that German-esque thing, and you can leave from that like I forgot what the Hellendorf Inn. Go out of that town, and then it makes a full loop back into Helen.
Okay.
Which, if you want to stay there, you can. That's one where you used to do base camp for some of the drives.
Oh, interesting.
But
Yeah,
it's just
I didn't
too
know any
far.
of that.
It's just too far out
Okay.
from the good driving roads, which you're probably 2 hours out from like a Cherahala.
That's too far.
And it doesn't seem like much because you should have the Helen Ring to kind of guide you there and other places. But yeah, it's neat. There's another German town on the West Coast that I want to check out.
Okay.
But yeah, it's
Where's that at?
I can't remember what I was drawing a blank.
Okay.
I don't remember what it's called, but it's kind of similar. It's
Nice.
kind of kitschy.
Okay.
But like food's good there. Food is like Germany.
Oh, wow.
For the most part.
Oh,
yeah.
no way. Yeah, I do remember kind of seeing like some German-esque like buildings,
Yeah,
you know, when
it's
I was
like
going there.
you're like it's like probably like a mile long. Like there's a center of town.
Okay.
And they built a new thing called Valhalla. It's kind of 10 minutes out off of that main strip.
Okay.
So it's more of a resort style, nice.
You know
thing.
what? I'm remembering. I did go through this.
Okay,
I
yeah.
did because I went with my girlfriend and like we went
Yeah.
there and we checked it out. Oh, that's what we did. Yeah, we did a road trip and we went over there.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like it shut my brain down, where I was
Yeah.
just kind of like, what's going on over here? This is like, why is there Germans here? Why am I?
What's going on?
Yeah, why am I seeing Lederhosens?
Yeah.
You know, I was
Well,
confused.
they do Oktoberfest, which is kind of cool.
That's
They,
cool.
They really celebrate the whole thing.
I still remember you to this day because, like, listen, I'm Greek and I'm used to like my American friends.
Yeah.
You know that like I was over in Greece and I posted the picture of the gyro. You know.
Yeah.
But I love it with chicken and French fries.
Yeah.
And just like everyone's like, oh, that looks so good, and then all of a sudden you chime in and you're like, isn't that like a doner?
Yeah,
And I was
exactly.
like, yes, technically it is a doner. You know. I was like,
But it's
so-
different. Yeah, but it's different. I mean,
But I was like, so like. He's absolutely right, and I'm just so annoyed right now. You know.
those fries. So speaking of that, what got me on that train was King Kebab was this place where I lived in Germany.
Okay.
Near where I lived. And what they would do was like a Chinese takeout box, and I don't know if this happens everywhere. So they throw fries in the bottom, the cabbage, the big block of cheese,
Oh, really?
and then they throw well, it depends on whatever meats they're running, like the lamb, or if they're doing a lamb combo right off the little spit.
Okay.
Throw it in there, and then they throw some spicy on top of it.
Nice.
Throw that, and then get a little mezzo mix, and all that's probably like €5. that was a go-to, and it's like a good size, like
The
quart
food
box.
in Europe is so much better. You
Well,
know.
I mean, it's not processed, and then
Yeah, exactly.
Also, you're always waiting on something because they're making it fresh for the most part.
Correct. Yeah. But what was so cool also about like that I thought about the because I went to Oktoberfest in Berlin. You know,
Okay.
was like I didn't know this giant like German carnival. You know.
Yeah,
I thought that was like crazy.
It's understated from my mind. I guess I just didn't think about researching it, but like going to that, when you think of tents, you think of like tents, like
Yeah.
not hard shell buildings that are temporary with holding hundreds of people in like just one building, and there's several of them, and they kind of do that whole like Ferris wheel thing is always a staple if they're going to do any type of celebration of holiday.
Okay.
Like, they do a Ferris wheel or a fair type thing. They
Oh,
always
really?
have sausage and grill and stuff. Mhm.
Well, the two things I was surprised about. One of them was like the food was so good, like because I don't know, you know, German cuisine. Like I know like the basics.
There's
but-
not too much to it.
But
It's
I-
like potatoes, meat, and yours.
Yeah,
pretty much
basically,
there.
I've never been to a potato stand that you can order.
Yeah.
Like, there's 16 different baked potatoes, you know, and there's like a tzatziki baked
Yep.
potato, and I was like, it was so good. I never thought a baked potato would be so fire, and I'm like, this is like amazing. But the second thing is the theme song for
Okay.
Oktoberfest is West Virginia.
Yeah, they're so that's the other thing too. Like they really celebrate like a lot of American rock. And
Yeah.
they have it- like what did I have a video of this too because there's a full out like live band in the middle of this tent. Like when we say tent, like it's like a hard shell. That'd be 10, 15,000 square foot. Like,
Okay.
Thing, and it was for Lowenbrau. Maybe that's who it was. One of the beer companies.
Okay.
And then they're just playing live music, and all these Germans are singing American rock.
Really?
songs. Yes.
That's what it was when I went in the tent and like I'm like drunk. I'm like trying to drink. I don't even drink beer, so I'm trying to keep up with
A
like,
lot more of it's UK people. If you
yeah, well,
noticed,
I'm
too.
trying to keep up with the German warlocks,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
where
you're
everyone's
not,
just like
yeah.
just drinking these. I'm like, oh my god, like you guys are crazy.
Well, you would get a
know?
liter of beer with dinner and just.
It was crazy. Like I don't understand. Like these like ogres, they're like 6'5", just towering over me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you know, like don't go, you know.
Yeah.
But and then all of a sudden I get in the tent and we finally find a spot, and then all of a sudden like 1,000 people start singing West Virginia, and I'm like, and I go to the person next to me, I'm like, why West Virginia? And they're like, we just love that song.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
what's more weird to me, like just me, is like they lose all accent. It's like it's a weird thing. It's like, how are you this perfect with like zero dialect for this language, and you're just like, and no accent.
Yeah. Can I see something controversial about Oktoberfest?
Okay.
They oversold the a little bit about like the hot girls. Okay.
Okay, I could see that.
There is not a plethora. There is hot girls.
Yeah.
But it is not like like where you see in the magazine where like you know every girl serving you is like this German model, you know, and like every girl there, you're just like, they lied to us, you know.
The marketing was done really well with all 10 of them that they had for every booth.
Exactly. I was thinking like, oh, this is gonna be amazing, like, you know, the National Lampoons or something like that. I'm like, this is gonna be sick. And then I'm like, all right, what's going on here?
Well, there's a few countries that there's girls, but like Germany's not the one where you're like, you know what, we're going there for the ladies.
That's true. But that was my thing where I had to like scale back my expectations. Where I'm like, okay, you know what, like we're just gonna have a good time. But honestly, like for anybody who wants to go, like it's a really cool experience. I like Oktoberfest.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
let me know. I can help you set that stuff up. They do stuff in Stuttgart. Well, they do it in all the cities.
Are they really? Mm-hmm. Oh, they do stuff in Stuttgart too? Mm-hmm. Oh, dude.
Yeah, Stuttgart has one right near the Porsche Museum.
I would think that it would be better to go to those because they're more manageable.
They're smaller, and for those listening, you still need to like look for tickets. You don't always have to have tickets and stuff, but it's like, and sometimes it's first come first serve. You can just research it and like you get in there and get a table. That's the biggest thing, a table, because you're going to be there a while. Then you can order your chicken or whatever they have for food, and then the beer is like, I think it was a pass or it's some sort of thing where it's so many euro and you can just.
That's awesome.
Keep doing beers.
But I would assume it's expensially easier because I mean, if you don't have this set up at Oktoberfest in Berlin, you're not gonna have the best time. You know, you're just gonna be like walking around the whole time. You know,
but a smaller one's normally, like you said, more manageable and just different vibe in general because there's different beers and things.
Dude, speaking of, like, listen, I know I love the United States, and for a little bit, like I'm very happy that I like road tripped a lot around it, like. And I want to do some more road trips, but the driving roads in Europe, oh my God.
The reason these cars were created over there.
Oh my God, my guy. You know, I don't know if you saw on my Instagram, but I went to, have you ever heard of the Dolomites? Mm-hmm. Aaron, that is one of the best places I've ever been in my life. Yeah. Okay? Like it is, it's like amazing. Cause like think about it. You're 1 hour south of the border, I think from Switzerland, Switzerland. So you have the infrastructure and the organization of the Swiss Germans. Yep. So like people wear lederhosens there everywhere, and the hotels are like a lot of them are German made with that German aesthetic. Yeah. But because you're across the border, you have the prices of Italy, where exponentially less than Switzerland, and on top of it, you have like the warmth and like the food of Italy.
That's cool.
So and the drive, it's some of the best driving roads I've ever seen in my life. I'm telling you. Like
my friend of mine, we haven't talked about it. He just got back from that area.
Yeah.
He goes there for work.
Okay.
And I know we're setting up. We're going to be setting up a tour out that way. I'm sure that's what he wants to talk about.
I'll break it down for you because it's like it's what I loved about it is that like it's old Italian money, you know. So but it's like with class, like they're gearheads, you know. So you see like some old like D90 Defenders with like patina on it. Yeah. You see some like I saw a guy tracking the 80s Mercedes R107, the convertible. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The guy like modded it out. And he had like he put like what was it? He had like wheel spacers on it. I saw them. He had some hood vents. I was asking him about it. Yeah. He upped the compression and the displacement on the engine. Yeah. I was like, you're tracking like that. So I was like, I love this car. You know,
that's the other thing too. Is like the Europeans have a different passion for like whatever car they have. It's not not that I noticed a lot of collections because I'm sure they exist, but I feel like it's like when they have the car, like. It's my thing. I'm gonna mod this. I'm just gonna have this, and then I'm just gonna enjoy it. That's it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right about that.
It's not a collector mentality as much.
Yeah, you see that like even in Nuremberg, you see like people they're like you ask them about that car and they're like, I've had it for like 15 years. And like,
It doesn't matter if it's like a Twingo or if it's a RS Trophy, Megane or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's pride. It's like your car, and it's an interesting topic because I feel like, especially like post COVID, there's such a divide with money right now between, like obviously normal people and like super rich people.
Yeah.
That I think that's like been. I don't want to say like in a bad way, but I think it's been a detriment to like the car hobby to enthusiasts, because now you have like enthusiasts and you just have people who just buy cars, and I don't mean to be judgmental, but like a lot of people that I know that came into money, they're just buying cars because somebody told them that car is a cool car to get, So even, and it kind of, it's like, I like the fact that Porsche is like so trendy and it's like, I'm happy that it's finally getting the respect that it deserves.
Yeah.
Because I do think that, people talk about like 911 being kind of like, it's just one car with like 10 different variations.
Yeah, but it's perfected variations is what it is. Yeah.
But like when I race against that Scuderia, like, and we would do DEs and stuff like that that 997 was every bit as good as that Scuderia, It's just two different philosophies. You had like emotion and the singing and the Scuderia, passion, but the German was like a sledgehammer. It was like sledgehammer engineering, and so like, I think with the 992 now, I think that, I think Ferrari's making like some of the worst cars they've ever, they're making, I think they're just pumping them out for volume versus Porsche still kind of sticking to
992 has got a pretty
true
good
driver's car.
Well, the RS, they've made, the last count I heard was like 512 or 5012 something like cars. So that's why we're seeing so many of them. They're finally doing what all of us enthusiasts said, if you want to stop flippers, just continue to let it flow, and they haven't stopped it. But that makes all these PTS cars kind of unoriginal. Like, go ahead and get whatever color you want to get, and there'll be somebody with the same color.
See, that's what I'm saying.
With 5,000 cars,
and that's what I was talking about with the.
Start looking back to your nostalgic things and like really diving into being an enthusiast on something instead of just like.
Yeah, and I don't want to be that guy where I'm like, I'm like
the oldest stuff's the best stuff.
Yeah, or I'm a true enthusiast or something like that, But like I'll give you an example, like Renlist, So like Renlist is. That was like where the true like 997 guys who like modded their cars. So like all the questions would be like, hey, like what alignment are you going with? And we would experiment with alignments, like, and then we would do like suspension settings, and then it was like a very like involved group, but it was very technical, and everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna try this exhaust, that exhaust, blah 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 blah. Now you go to, I'm not trying to be judgy, okay, but you go to like 991, 992 section, I will put all the money in my bank account that like the first 5 topics are like, what deviated stitching did you get? Like, how did you spec your car? Oh, like, did you get PTS? And it's like, like, it's cool. I get it. You're individualizing your car and it's awesome. And I'm happy for you that like you're excited about it, but like, you're not talking about the driving dynamics of the car, know?
They're in like level 1 stage enthusiasts.
Yeah,
they haven't gotten past that.
And I'm happy for them. I'm not trying to be like a hater and so forth, but like I've seen the shift in Renlist of like there's a big difference between a 997 guy and 991, 992 guy, And I am still happy that like those guys still track their cars, and I'm like they're like holding on, but I am seeing a difference of like the enthusiasts, like of working on their car, kind of what you're saying, like be passionate about it, really learning it.
Oil like 2 days ago.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, like, oh, I have PTS, I'm gonna PPF my car. Oh, I'm gonna like, I'm gonna get a center delete. That's considered like modding. I don't want to put a lot of miles on it. It's just a weird. The car culture is kind of shifting a little bit, where it's not like gearhead enthusiasts, it's more like collector enthusiasts.
I was going to say the same thing, and I feel like that's definitely, first you get the car, you got to PPF the whole entire thing. It's got to be PTS color, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, and then drive it for a year and then flip it or sell it somewhere.
And it's
like where there's no attachment to
exactly, and so like I know guys that like aren't even Porsche people and they have allocations for like a 992, and I was like,
it's now the cool kid.
Yeah, but like you ask them and they're like, yeah, I'll drive for like a year or so and I'll just dump it, and I'm like,
That's because that's how strong the Porsche market is, and they realize like it's become not even just a collector, but just an investment. That's what people are looking at it. Like more of an investment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's what it is.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, people are making careers out of the way the 992 sell now, especially with the ST and like the GT3 and the RS. Any specialty model, even the cars, like people are like making money on it. You know, I know. I mean, the dealers now, like they're either getting like kickbacks personally, or they're just putting the ADMs on it. Yeah. You know, but even like that whole world. You know, even if I had money, the kind of money to like just say like, I want a 992 like RS, you know, I mean, people are paying like, they were paying like I think 150 over. Yeah. I think that it's
something like that because even the GT3s were that way too.
Yeah,
they were 330 and now it's going to be pretty expensive with the tariffs and stuff too.
And I talked to one guy who did pay over that, or a friend of that guy. Yeah. And I was like, and I asked him, I go, like, you just paid like 150 over the car? Like, you're not worried about, like, what happens if the corrects or something like that?
There is such a thing as called depreciation.
Yeah. But again, post-COVID, I think that so much money has come in that the guy, he's like, I don't care. And I'm like, you don't care about, like, you know, and it's not, even if it's just about, even if it's about money, like, the principle of it, you know, where you're like, really, like that?
Well, it's not helping anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not like you're not stopping the problem, and the problem is that they can just feel like they can charge it because the market is bearing it.
Yeah,
and whether that guy knows it, cares about it, that's
for sure.
That's just what everybody else has to deal with.
Yeah, and so like and we're talking about this, but the weird thing is that I like watching all this and talking about it and learning, you know, because I'm like, I just want to see how the market's going. I'm always like kind of curious. But for the first time in my life, I have no desire to get out of the 997. Yeah. Like I think in terms of, so I think the best era of cars is 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. I think that's when like, 80s was like they made some like really good classics, but still like, you know, the engine management systems are like weren't really that great, like the Motec systems or whatever. Yeah. Even on like I have an E28 M5, you know, and it's like even that's limited on the system. Versus in the 90s and the 2000s, they really nailed reliability, but with driving dynamics and styling. You know, where like the reliability did not get into the driving dynamics too much, and so there is a lot of people that like want the newest and greatest thing, but I think from what I have observed, like the real gearhead enthusiasts, they're not really excited about anything post like 2015, 16. You know,
there's also like a big group of us in that age range.
Yeah,
probably 30s to 50ish. I would say it's just like it is nostalgia for a 2000s car.
Yeah,
and it makes sense. And then driving something new, like driving in the 992 manual and PDK GT3s like back to back, I was like, PDK is better than the manual. The manual felt soft.
Sure.
And so I was like, oh, just not the same feels.
Yeah, of course.
And so, but the whole market is taking our 997s and just making it astronomically.
Well, so I think the reason why is because when you sit in a 90s car, 80s car, okay, it's a 90s and 80s car. Like it's like dated a little bit, you know, like it's like it feels nostalgic. It feels vintage, you know. That 997 does not. Even though it's considered a classic, the interior holds up very well. You know, it like I had a friend of mine the other day, and I'm like, "Does this look like a 2010, 2011 car?" And she's like, "Absolutely not." You know, I think the styling is timeless. I think the 997 look is one of the most beautiful looks they've ever done, and so I think that's why they're appreciating is because people like in 2025 can still get in my car. And they don't feel like they're driving like a 964 that's like a vintage car.
What helps is
it feels like a modern car.
Yeah, and what helps with that is Porsche is actually supporting it with doing the PCM Plus and keeping up. They've figured out their classic section.
Yeah.
And they're definitely trying to keep things modern, and then we still can get parts. That's another thing. Until that point happens, when it's like, all right, we can't get now like 4.0 cranks and things like that. When you start building things, that's.
Ask me about that BMW E28. Like that there is like certain parts but for the engine and stuff like that, it's not like Porsche, you know? Yeah. I think Porsche, I think they're watching what Singer is doing, and I think they're going to make a larger play into the vintage market.
So. I hope so.
You know?
I don't know why they have all the classic centers to do it, and they've done some of that stuff in Atlanta, but
They're restoring 964 993s, right?
Yeah,
Don't
they
offer
do-
that
they do
service?
everything. Mhm.
Okay. Which is,
there's a full yellow on
I saw
yellow
the price, and I
993
was like-
turbo. Oh yeah,
I was
it's
like, oh, jeez.
not cheap, but then it gets done, and then now
Yeah,
it's
of
Porsche
course.
documented, and then the color and the VIN are the
Yeah.
same. Like
See-
0 miles. Like there's so many things where you could, if you didn't have a black PTS 3 RS, then you could
That's true.
spend the extra and like, all right, it was gray black before, but now it's black, but now it's documented. Porsche did it 0 miles.
Yeah.
So then now, as a collector, now this car's got 300 miles technically.
Yeah.
Documented by Porsche. And
Oh,
now-
so okay.
they'll
they were-
0 mile it out, like
Yeah,
as
yeah,
far
yeah,
as like
yeah,
rebuild and
okay.
all that.
Can you see these people with this money, the money people? Can you imagine that? Instead of just like wasting money on like a 765 LT or whatever, which it's a cool car. Could you imagine if you like took your Porsche and you paid in Porsche, completely refurbished your car from Porsche? The bragging rights on that.
Not only do that, what they should do, so they should go a step further, and they should do a full like delivery process. Like, let me do your delivery.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Let me go over and pick. Like, I don't care what it costs at that point.
That'd be
Just ship it over there, tell me it's there, and then walk me through it just like I was picking up the car again.
Yeah.
Like, make that. That's a real nostalgic
that would be
experience.
cool. Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, they gotta have something like where like
I don't know. I don't think there's an NDA. So two years ago, they're starting to build a site, or they did, where there was going to be Porsche only for all the used cars and
Okay.
that sort of thing. So they have to be thinking about with the e-fuels and these classic dealerships
Yeah.
about doing
I would
legit,
assume.
like start on taking restorations or start rebuilding. Like the tooling still has to be there. Why not?
Yeah, so
do another 993 body or do another 964
Correct.
body or
well, I don't
limited run.
I don't think the passion is going away. I think that like people got scared with the EU and a lot of these regulations.
Yeah.
It's all going away. It's all
Yeah.
BS. You know, it's a bunch of it's a bunch of people that like that don't know car culture and they went a little overboard with their policies. Gas is coming back 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, you even heard it with the Boxster that they're going back to ICE. But again, I know I keep saying post-COVID, a lot of classic car mechanics retired. You know, they just
Yeah.
cashed out. They took the money and the people and they left. So there is it's weird. You have this inverted thing where you have like the passion of Porsche because it's a trickle down effect. So the more because Porsche is popular now, people get into a Porsche and then they start learning about the vintage cars. So they start kind of backtracking, you know? And so I think the popularity is only going to keep going up with 964s, 993s, especially with like, you know, like with, I don't think like, you know, with what Singer and Gunther Works is doing, obviously people are not going to buy those cars, but I think it just brings.
Well, they can't buy them anymore.
Yeah, of course,
They
yeah.
don't make the classics, and they're
Yeah.
only making limited runs of that stuff.
Exactly. But I think when you see it at a show,
Yeah.
you learn about it and you're like, oh, this is a cool car. And you're like, well, this is a 993 chassis. And then that person's like, oh, well, what's a 993? And they start like kind of.
I don't think there's any other brand that can talk history. But
Yeah.
it's actually approachable on price to start getting that history, even if it's not a collection and you just have an air-cooled and water-cooled car.
Yeah.
I think the Porsche is the only one that does that. Ferrari doesn't have enough car and scale for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other brand, and so I think that's
I agree.
they have no choice, in my opinion, but to support the classics and probably really expand what they offer.
That's what I was thinking because like the mechanics are getting less and less. And so there is like a hunger of finding like, you know, good work. So I think they're going to start. If they're smart, I think they would start expanding even what they do now.
And like doing the engine work and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like that's because we're, like you said, we're classic in that era now. We should be able to send it to PEC in Atlanta and like, all right, hey, pin my lines or weld my lines or
Oh, that'd be cool.
do that. And then, all right, and guess what? It's warranted because Porsche has it.
Yeah.
Cool.
That would be like, I don't think it would ever happen, but that would be cool if they had certain dealerships like, you know, like that, where they had like a air cooled offset.
Well, they have classic dealerships. They're like certified ones. So they should be able to.
So they have like legit
There's a-
Porsche
there's a-
dealerships that are only do
Jacksonville's-
classics.
Well, not only classics,
Yeah.
but that would be cool too.
Okay. That's
Should.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense, like
Or
business
service.
wise?
Well, it wouldn't. It would from a service center perspective.
Okay, so that's service centers. So they
should do.
in Jacksonville. They'll
they
do
have a
they'll do
classic.
air cools. Oh no way. Okay, that's kind of cool.
Because that's who did, or that's why Aaron has his 9963 cup car done by them.
Yeah, I just get like, I mean, I know it's on like, I'm sure that there are dealerships that do classics.
There's not many. You have to be certified.
Okay,
So
that's what I was going to say.
I don't know what that process is.
That's what scares me about it, because like even my 997, there was like, I think it was in the middle of nowhere, and I had to go to a Porsche dealership, and the guy was looking at me like I might as well have a 71 long hood, He was just kind of like, what's this? And I'm like, oh my God, I'll take care of it, Yeah. And I found like a local shop nearby. But yeah, like, so I do think that that's the 997. I think that's the allure of it is that it doesn't look too old. It still is like pretty modern. Like, I don't feel like I'm driving an old car when I drive my car. And I just have, and then, it's spilling into it where like any car that I want to get going forward, I feel like it always tends to reside in like, 2012 and before, is there any new car that like excites you right now? Like, really. I know that the ST is cool. I like the ST.
That's cool, but they could have done it in a better fashion too. Like it could have been more like car. I don't know, more ST, more race car. I feel like it's kind of just like cool. You made a touring 3 RS. But
I think the formula of Porsche right now, that what they've mastered is like parts bin models.
Oh, exactly, and that to me also detracts from like, all right, cool, I have an ST, but now there's a GT3 touring that just came out that has all the ST bits that they figured out. Like, okay, cool, so. Are we going to continue to do this? And then how is this model going to work over time? Why would I spend almost $1 million for this car after everything? And then just to have somebody else have a GT3 touring that's got all the same parts when I could have just saved money. But again,
you know why, Aaron?
Because of
the little nameplate on that glove box. Okay.
Yeah.
One of like 600 or one of 499.
But again, why wouldn't they? Why can't they bring back another set of 4.0s for the 997 and like release that? Like they have the capability of doing that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that. I think that like, I wish they could do that, but I do. I used to be like a hater on like a lot of developments, but I do think they're under a lot of pressure with the EU regulations. Yeah. Like even with the 992, the new .2 GT3, power didn't go anywhere. It has 4 cats in the car. Yeah. It's insane, And so they are like, I think they have their back against the wall of like what they can do. That they're just doing like the maximum. In my opinion, I think what car manufacturers should do moving forward, and I know that Porsche focuses on it, is weight. If they reduce weight, cars they're too bloated, they're too big, they're too heavy right now. I think one of the designers of Porsche actually said that he said that the 992 has become too bloated and he wants to reduce the size.
What if the 994 comes out and all of a sudden it's like 997's like size? Then what? Would you buy a new one if it all of a sudden the sizing had changed? No. But then you get a modern deck. Okay.
Are you asking me to be a traitor to 997?
No, I'm just.
You asking me to cheat right now?
If they made a 997, like what if they carbon copied like 997, but now it's all whatever the newest
iteration
is. But then you don't have the Mezger motor, which is such a big difference.
And what is the name of this channel?
Mezgers Only.
Exactly. Yeah. Have some respect. Okay,
bringing it back.
You're even a traitor to your own channel.
I'm just posing questions.
I mean, like as an actual engine design, I think Chris Harris alluded to this. Yeah, the new 991, 992 motors, the engine is like not the 991.1. You know what I'm saying? That they had issues, but especially with the 992, it is pretty impressive. I mean, what was that rumor that they ran it for like 3.5 hours at Redline or something like that in the simulator or like in the room? So that engine is bulletproof and it's crazy, But I think that things can be too efficient, and so like I love that the Mezger has a lot of character. With like honestly, one of my favorite things about the 997 is the puff of white smoke when you start.
Yeah, exactly,
it's great.
There's always you get that oil smell and stuff. Yeah, because it's so. It's vintage. I mean, it's 964 block. It's
everybody shits their pants. They're just sitting there like in a parking lot. They think that my car's gonna blow up, and I have this like big smile on my face, and I'm just like,
Clutch is all chattery, just smokes everywhere.
Person behind me
Creaks,
with a Save
rattles.
the Planet bumper sticker is just like yelling at me, and I'm just like, I'll never change. 997 forever.
It's a good move.
But yeah, that's it just has a lot of character. I just love that car. The Mezger is like the best motor. And I know though, like we haven't talked about like the GT2 or anything else, the other like iterations.
Have you driven those, the 2 and 2 RS?
No, I haven't. I just love. I used to be like, growing up, I used to be like a JDM guy. So I used to like always love like turbos, like like my dream car was a 3000 GT VR4.
Yeah.
But like now that I've gone into German cars with NA, I would like to have a turbo eventually, but I just love NA cars because that was a big thing with. I looked into like 3.6, 964 turbos, and even 993 turbos, and while they drive amazing, if you're talking about canyoning, and just going through the mountains, the NA is just like so much more fun. It is. I think in certain areas like the turbo could be like amazing, but I just love the response of the NA. 997 kind of ruined it for me.
I can see that. My not really driving a turbo hard and driving my dad's was like, all right, I get it. Let's make some cool sounds, and it's
I want it. I mean, I want a 993 turbo, but like they skyrocketed.
I mean everything.
But I don't see those coming down. Because it's like in terms of an air cooled turbo 911, I do think that the 993 is like the pinnacle. It's gorgeous.
It's hitting all those Porsche tropes of like, it's the last of this, a small run here, then paint and whatever that is. It's all those things.
Yeah, but that's kind of how it was with the 993. That like growing up, like even in the 2000s, 993 was the king of the air cooled. It was either 993 or like a long hood. 964 was like kind of like the redhead stepchild, and then 3.2s, like they're great. I like them, but freaking 3.2, like either get a long hood or a 9.3. But I think that like as time has gone on, people realize that not only I think the 964 is a much more 911 looking car, but I think with the with the suspension changes, 993, I think the 964 drives. It's weird. A 91 to 94 964, I think, drives closer in DNA to a long hood than to a 993. I think it has the characteristics more of a vintage Porsche. Versus 993, I think it's too refined. It kind of muted it a
that
little
959 era when they were really trying to push technology.
Yeah.
That's probably where.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, look, it's a sick car. Like I'm not saying that like that it's not awesome. That's why I find the appeal of that's why I love my 964. Is it just I don't know, just drive. It's awesome.
Do you have anything done to your RS? Like
my RS? Okay, so we were talking about this. I have like the big build coming up. So as of right now, it just has like basic suspension components on it, but I want to do the full shebang on it. So I was asking your opinion on like the Dundon like full race setup. I want to do the 200 cell cats with the side deletes. And then with either like a aftermarket center muffler or the steel, because from my friend has side deletes with the steel center, and it sounds awesome,
They I need to see if I actually have another friend with a Dundon setup. I need to reach out to him.
Okay,
but he had it on .2, just a G3, and that thing was like chest shaking. Like it is like it's a low, hard, like moving tons of air.
Oh really?
Exhaust. Yeah, he said he doesn't like it and he likes loud exhaust. He's just, there's some sort of like vibration or something whenever he's driving that car. It's like, it's not about it. I don't know, but it is loud.
Okay.
Like that, the way, but he had the crack pipe. So
see, that's the thing. You gotta have the center muffler in it.
I think I've heard the center muffler side and the crack pipe, and that is.
Yeah, the crack pipe it's too much.
Worlds. Yeah.
And that's why like I like with the Dundon or like any other of those exhaust setups. I think Klein is also valve. I do like the valve. I do like a loud. I just don't want it to be like crazy. Like I don't want to be that guy, Yeah. But and then it just started like acting up, but like the stock suspension is stuck in like almost like full stiff.
Oh really?
So I'm looking at either MCS or like nitrons.
Yep. I've seen a lot of people do nitrons. I don't know if it's just because it's the new hotness.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. But like a lot of people say that like it's a good setup. And honestly, with the nitron, it has front lift.
No, that was the other thing. It's not only just front lift, but it's front lift like their system.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
I think he was. I watched Ben's video, and because he's doing that to his car before air and water, and yeah, that lift system looks different, and I guess it's more reliable or something like that. I don't know.
It has to be. I think
it's also new, so there's that.
Yeah.
I mean, our cars are 20 years old now.
Because with my 997, like it does still work with the front lift system, but I think it's like compressed air or something like that versus like the other ones are like electronic.
This is still compressed air for the nitron system.
Is it?
It's
Okay.
just a different compressor. I don't know.
I forget what made the 997 like so.
But it's like it's instant
unreliable.
though too. But it's also like it doesn't for some reason. I didn't know this. Mine never got stuck in it because I now have static suspension. But like where they would get stuck up. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
So-
it's happened a couple times where I'm like, you know.
You just hit the button. You're like, all right, nothing's happening. Hit the button, nothing.
But the only cool thing is that like you get that little like tss, when you like press a button and you're like, I love
It
this
makes all
car.
the difference for speed bumps. It really does.
Oh,
versus
yeah.
Really, I mean, because the cars are too low in general.
Yeah.
For that lip, I don't know who thought that was good. And then you put a cup lip on there, and then you.
And you know what? And that's the other thing. Do you know how much? Do you see how much the lips are now? They're like $700. They used to be like $150, $200.
Honestly,
So it's like that's even before they used to be a little expendable. You know, and that's the other thing is that like everyone who has 997 has like encountered this like pulling out of a place with like people kind of sitting like
Exactly.
everyone's looking at you and then you get like that there's 2 or 3 people that'll be like oh shit and you're just like they think that like you just cracked the bumper and it's a cheap part, it's not a big deal, but you're just like I hate you.
Well, this guy didn't care about his car at all.
Yeah, because they think they're like, oh, like like driving a sports car, like doesn't even know how to drive it, and I'm like, I'll kill you,
I mean, if it was one of those carbon fiber lips, then I'd probably have a problem with it. But if it's just like my regular OEM lip,
there was a couple guys that would do like they would paint match the lip, and I'm like, have fun with that, especially in the dot ones.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
it's gonna fold under and crack.
So here's because with you running this page, so here's the $1 million question that I'm stuck at is that like with the mods. So what my hope is I want to do. I've been looking into the custom tune with the Dundon plenum and the exhaust setup.
Yep.
I think they're a little overconfident with the numbers. I don't think there's no way you get 70 real world horsepower with like a plenum exhaust and a tune.
So I have personal contact with somebody that did the whole thing, and he just didn't like it at the end. So I don't know.
Was it like he didn't like the power band or
like he just didn't? Nothing ever felt right for him.
Okay.
Like for the entire system, like it just didn't act right. And I don't know if it was
interesting.
Tuning needed to happen afterwards or something. He just wasn't having a good experience. I haven't heard.
Yeah, I heard the
pieces.
tuning is like essential.
But that's what I think too. It really needs to have some dyno time and legit tuning, not just like pop a tune on there.
So I'm curious your opinion. So like let's say that like those mods do get you to like let's just say 40, which I still think is a lot, but 40 real horsepower. My hope is that like because now that I'm used to 997, that like that I hope it fills that void where it's like adds a little more power.
Yeah.
But the 4.0 build is always in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I would almost like. I would like to do, if it's going to be what I've heard, what auto metrics cost versus what a Dundon setup costs. I mean, you're halfway there.
Yeah, that's
for your Dundon setup.
And on top of it, but just to play devil's advocate, essentially half of those builds they want you to put Dundon stuff on there anyway. Because now another paranoia with the 997, you had the coolant lines. Now the cam actuators. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, but I thought that was only for the. That's RS.
It's RS. Yeah.
I was like, but that's in the. Oh yeah.
I appreciate it.
RS and the turbos, right?
Oh really?
Well. I think the turbos have a cam pinning issue.
Yeah, so that's a paranoia. So now recently, the throttle body on the plenum, the bolts have been loosening out and go through the engine. Yeah, 100%.
I didn't know that.
I think there's 5 so far that's happened to. I don't think that they're.
It's the fun things that we're all finding out together as these cars.
Yeah,
age.
and I'm just like, that's a new paranoia. So I don't know if they're overstating it, but now everyone's like,
Would you just throw some like red Loctite on the bolts now, or like extra? Like, what do you do for that?
That's what you think, but of course, everybody's like, well, I just got the Dundon plenum as like whatever, like a safety net,
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a very expensive safety net, you know.
So they just get that, and then now the bolt's not going to back out because it's a new piece of.
Yeah, it's a whole new plenum system.
Yeah.
That's why. So like it just eliminates all that, you know. Which I'm like, okay, I guess so, you know. So, but then, you know, I want to do the 4.0, especially with Autometrics. You know, they're like the gods on the East Coast. But the paranoia that I have now is how reliable is the 4.1 and the 4.0 motors, you know? Because I love the fact that like my 997 is like such a bulletproof car, you know? And so I don't want to go down that road of just modifying too much to where like you're dealing with check engine lights or like the car's a little bit more temperamental than normal, you know?
Yeah.
And
you like the way it is now.
Yeah.
And you want,
it's
I
OEM,
can see, yeah.
you know? And so like out of all the cars, like because I have the long hood, a 964, I have the 997.
Yeah.
And all the years of modding cars, there is some wisdom with that empty bank account that I have, you know? And that's like, always go OEM when you can, you know? Don't go after market, you know? And then second of all, like, don't go after like that extreme build or don't mod it too much. Like, really be honest with yourself about what you want out of the car, you know?
If you want a race car, buy a race car.
Yeah, so if I sure the allure to get that 4.0 motor, I would love it in that 997. But then it's like, you're probably going to have to like ship it back a couple of times to that shop, or it's going to be more temperamental.
I mean, the big thing, just do what you do and do your research. Because there's somebody, I mean, that has a 4.0 somewhere that's had some miles on it. Actually, the same guy that had the D4 pack.
Okay.
Now just did. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's finished yet. Is doing a 4-liter. So maybe that'll give you.
Is it really? Yeah. Well, I thought that they're like 100%, but then there was a YouTube channel. A really nice guy. His name is Zygene or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you heard of him or no?
Yeah. I watched.
So he did that 4.0, and the car was having problems the whole time, and he had to like reset it, and it went lip mode, and then it didn't, but they want to keep the revs off.
I know he said they found whatever the problem was, like an O2 sensor. But again, you're right. It's not. But it doesn't matter who builds it. It's just still a modded motor. Like it's cracked open. They're doing their thing. It's
like you're pushing it. You know?
Well, I mean, maybe not. I mean, because those, I know that I didn't talk to Lee personally, but I know that he had 4-liter 4.1 built.
Correct. Yeah.
And then it didn't blow, and then he had another one built by Autometrics.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't know the first one blew.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now they got a 4.2.
Interesting.
From what I understand, maybe I don't think it's a rumor. I think it's pretty true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that,
I know Autometrics, weren't they like almost like considered like an extension of Manti? Like
I have no idea. That's interesting.
I don't know. I don't know where it's like maybe they had to. Maybe that was a folklore like back on the forums. But I always was kind of told that they're like the shop and like there's like a connection with like Manti or something like that.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's true or not.
I've known the Manti boys for a while.
But yeah, like. That's my goal with the 997 is like, you know, I want to get the suspension dialed in, you know, and then when I take the engine out, I want to do like the while you're in there. So I forget the list, but like you got to do the serpentine pelt, the water pump. Yeah. There's a couple more elbows on top of like welding the coolant lines.
Yeah, there's a couple. You can get them from, it's either Sharkworks.
I think Sharkworks sells it.
I know I bought stuff from.
Yeah,
but that's something I'm trying to do is trying to get those like kit type things.
Okay.
So when you do it, you can just like hit the website, boom, done.
Collecting the parts. I know.
Yeah.
I should have done that with the 4-liter clutch kit. I just like the prices are just like astronomical.
I did mine when I did my lines 2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. See, so the core of the issue of owning my cars is that like you're either a guy that you're like
stock guy or like full modded guy.
Yeah.
You're not
like I'm an OEM plus guy. Yeah. Like I gotta have the car like cater to me. I have a friend who has like a totally stock car and he's like, I'm like, you gonna mod it? And he's like, no. And I'm like, what? Like you don't want to do like suspension on it? And he's like, no.
Sure.
And it bothers me. And he'll like, and I still try to peer pressure him, you know? Austin from AC Solutions. He just got like I think it was a 3.2, gorgeous like red car, you know? And I was like, come on, like just put an exhaust on it, you know?
Just try it out.
And he's just like, maybe I'll do an exhaust. But I'm like, I want to peer pressure people. I want to spend their money.
A little Porsche drug dealer. Like, just try it out.
Absolutely. Because I can't on my cars. So that's why like everybody's like, well, if you don't DE it, just buy refurbish the shocks or do like a stock suspension. I'm like,
well, you can do that, and you can do the DSC box too.
Yeah, I used to have that before. I want to do that, but like, because I was actually it's good that you put that up because I was looking at the Tractive, but the more that I researched the Tractive, the more that I'm probably not going to get it because it's a weird thing now. Now a couple of people are having problems where like it emits a frequency
Weird.
in the car, and it's like almost like inaudible, but it's there, and it like a guy ripped the system off his car. And I don't know if it's like the active system is just kind of like it has a certain frequency to it. But Tractive was one of the ones I was looking at because I like the idea of a aftermarket suspension that's like still PASM, that's still adjusting everywhere.
JRZ is doing the same thing, doing their aftermarket.
Okay.
What's not called? What is it called? It's something. I was with one of the reps.
Okay.
That's a good friend. That's no longer a rep. But he was telling me like the difference between like they're measured in hertz, I guess, for the rebounds.
Interesting.
And it's like it goes from like a 20 to like a 200. Like the difference, I don't know, it's like hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
Of change for being able to react from a stock system to what JRZ was making. Okay. For their active, and their active system's like another brain which has the telemetry for yaw and pitch and all that. It's like
that's cool. Well, that's another thing that we're talking about is that we're used to like conventional mods just getting better and better, but there might be like a whole future with the air cooled and Mezgers with like as technology gets on, where you can almost. I understand Tractive was like kind of like the first to do it, but there might be like an OEM level type of aftermarket system, I could see Manti develop this crazy thing, Well,
I think they're just going to use. I mean, Manti uses KW for.
Do they really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, they develop with KW. Okay. So Manti was Manti for. Well, I mean, they might do their own thing.
I thought with their.
Well, they'll do any
MR,
cars.
They have this crazy suspension.
They'll set up any cars too if you're there. Like if you're over.
I did hear that. Yeah.
If you're over the Nürburgring, you want to get your alignment done, you can. It's like €700.
Do you think that they would be nice to my PTS?
Yeah,
997.
I have a friend has a McLaren done there. So
should I be that Porsche guy and just say like instead of saying like I have 997, like put in parentheses like PTS, 997? Do you think?
just really let them know.
Yeah,
it's not just black. This is special.
PTS Black. But so
suspension, exhaust.
Yeah, so that I don't think that you really. So this is my thing is that like I want to do the full suspension and the exhaust setup on it, and then that's the big thing is do I do the motor, or do I just leave?
I would just like do it incrementally. Like we'll just do it incrementally and see if you're like, all right, well I think it needs power now.
Yeah,
because you might gain a little bit of like at least perceived power from the exhaust. It's now louder, so it's got to be therefore faster.
True. Yeah, I want to ask them about like the throttle bar because when I did talk to Autometrics like recently, they did acknowledge that they've heard about it. You know, so it is a thing.
And they also are a shop, and so if I was at a shop, I'd be acknowledging every type of thing. Like,
That's a very good point. Are you trying to say I'm a sucker of a customer? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm trying to say just look into things.
That is true. I mean, that's the thing is that like on Redless, like how overstated is it? Yeah. But I did ask. With the Campbell situation, because I was really nervous about it, I did ask a bunch of people about it, and it is starting to happen. You know, as these cars age, and it does kind of make sense because even when my friend had a 4.0 997, it was having harmonic issues. Like I think
because they changed the profiles for both the three.
Yeah, I want to
both the RS and the 4.0s, right?
Yeah, I've heard two different stories from two different R4.0s, but I think they replaced his engine. Like
they probably would have it because that's going to be one of the easiest.
Yeah, and this is during like the DE days. They like replaced his engine. They brought it back.
So when I was at the museum several years back, probably 2013, 14, there was a 4.0 that wasn't running. That was sitting outside the dealership. Yeah, so if you have the museum and then you have the Porsche dealership that sits outside.
Yeah.
And it was literally outside. Like it wasn't even inside the dealership. It was just sitting outside next to the Carrera GT that was also outside.
That's sick.
But it had a little tag on it that said that it wasn't running and in German. I was like, oh, okay, I wonder what's wrong with that.
Oh my God,
so
that's crazy.
Even back in the day, that's. I wonder if they just built those motors like to the absolute like nth degree, where it's like Well, they'll last for a couple of years.
I would give up like Haagen-Dazs ice cream and like
Yeah.
Oreo, like cookies and cream. If I
Yeah.
could have a 4.0 motor, I would give it up for life. I would. That's a sacrifice.
You talking about all this OEM plus, it'd be cool to see somebody start.
That's another business
really,
model.
Really doing the
Yeah.
suspensions, really doing the motors, going through it. And something I saw a Volkswagen guy do that I would love to see would be, all right, you see these RS motors and these GT3 motors,
Yeah.
the same. Take them down side by side. Start measuring cam profiles. Start
Yeah,
doing
that's true.
like, because I know you that all that literature is like I haven't really seen too much.
Sure.
There's some hard books, but to like go through it and like visually see like this is the same, this is the same, headwork's the same. All right, journaling's the same.
Yeah.
All right, they changed this. All right,
Because there's a lot of like,
go from GT3 RS and a 4.0 motor if somebody would be that was dead.
But I was saying also, like, in terms of like, we're talking about the vintage cars, like, could you imagine if Porsche sold crate motors of vintage cars? Are you kidding me? If they just sold like a, I mean, I think that, well, they don't really care about the values of the used car market, But
I don't think they do.
But could you imagine if I could get like a 3.8, like what was it, a 3.8 like 964 like RS motor? Are you kidding me? Or like a 997, they just replicated the 4.0. I would really start saving pennies for that,
Well, it would make sense in the aspect if they like to do service work. Why,
Yeah.
if they were able to do that and then still service it, and then
I'm telling you, Porsche, please, that'd be amazing. I mean,
But they're already.
I'm saying this, and they're
Yeah.
gonna price it at 200,000, and I'm like, wait, it's too
Well,
expensive. You
it'd be-
priced it like, hold on.
Thanks for making it, but like
A little bit lower. But that's the thing about the 997 that I think really adds to the ever long lasting like value of the car is that like, yeah, when I drive a 964, it's a 3.6, and then I'm gonna bump it to a 3.8, but like people are putting 4.0 motors in them. Same with 993, same with 996. I understand 996 is a really balanced car, but I know people who put like 4.0 motors or 3.9s. The car's like awesome,
Yeah.
And so, but with the 997, I really honestly think that like it's just so good out of the box. It doesn't need a ton of power. It's fun to have a 4.0 motor, but that 3.8 is perfect in the canyons.
that'll get you in trouble.
Come on, it's great. So like, it is awesome to own a car that like if you were going to do an extensive plan, it really is just like suspension work and like a nice exhaust setup, and that's it.
And suspension in general, just because realize your car is aging.
Yeah.
And it needs to be redone at some point. Like it's just because it doesn't have, but like,
Of course.
8,000 miles on it.
Can I brag to you about something that my
Sure.
Porsche has?
Yeah.
That like only like 3 people have.
Right.
This is. Do I can look in the camera? This is the most Porsche thing ever. Okay. Porsche like rentless thing. This is how sick I've become. So the door pulls. So the door pulls, they're just they're. The normal pulls, it's just like, I know it's kind of dorky to say, but it's like it's just like one piece of the fabric, okay?
Yeah, like the nylon stuff.
Nylon or whatever it is. So there is a guy back in the day that ordered a whole spool of the door pulls in yellow, and it's like the 4-ply.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And it's like, so it matches the Porsche OEM style of black and red and gray. And I shit you not, because I heard the story. Somebody in like a Porsche didn't like it, and they cut off the supply from that supplier. So it was only one roll, and it was I forget. I think it was Rasad out west,
Rasad,
and so they made the pulls, but they only made like, I think it was like 7 sets or whatever. And so I paid a stupid amount of money for these pulls, but I have 4-ply pulls, in the door pull that no one else will ever care about. No girl will ever be impressed by this. No. But there is at least 1 or 2 guys on Rentless that I can probably brag to about it.
Yeah.
Judging by your face, you're not one of those 2 guys. But
I'm excited for you. That's it. This is my excited face. So.
Like whenever I get passengers in there, I'm like, you see that pole? You see how there's 4 lines?
You'll never see this again. You'll never see this again.
Yeah, she's just like, I don't care. Like, get me out of this car.
The moment she sits in and she's like, oh, that wasn't even an option. You're like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's like the options list is crazy with the Porsche thing. That's the other thing. Because I had my RS actually was spec'd kind of interesting. So they did did a whole decal delete option from the factory,
Yep.
which I'd never seen before. And then it has a black interior package. So you know how like your air vents are gray? Mine are black.
Oh,
Do you see what I'm saying? Do you
That's
see how
cool.
sick this is? Like
That's
we're
pretty
talking
cool.
about air vents, and you're
Yeah.
like, you, really?
yeah.
You
I've
know?
never seen black ones. So
This
I'm
is
excited.
this is
So now I gotta.
this is why Porsche enthusiasts, like have no friends, and we're
Yeah.
dorks, and we only hang out with other Porsche guys because this is what we do. You know.
Somebody's getting excited about it.
But yeah, it was. I've never seen it, and it's like the center vent, the side vents, and then the surround on the shifter. But it was like I never even knew that was an actual option, for the 997s. But I guess this guy optioned it. He literally optioned it to the max. I got super lucky.
Was it a special wishes build?
What
Was
it?
was it a special wishes build? Like, was it a
I don't think so. I think
Sondervange before it was?
yeah. I think that maybe when he ordered it, he just kind of like checked all the boxes.
Because it was a PTS. I wondered if it.
Maybe I'm not sure, because I just know that it has like weird stuff on there that like because I also had the black package on the outside, so there was like nothing discolored. It was all body
shadow, yeah.
colors. It was weird, which that's another like humble brag, the dork of Porsche world, where the
Yeah.
guy's like, oh, you took your decals off. I was like, actually,
Came that way.
this is
That's
so
cooler.
pathetic. But yeah, it was because I love black cars, so it was just kind of like it added to it where I was like, huh, nice.
Don't have to worry
That's
about
kinda-
those.
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of nice, But
What would you have done on the outside for the accent color if you could have had the?
honestly, the
option?
only thing that I think you noticed it, I just painted the uprights black,
Okay.
and that's it. And then another like interesting thing, which is like again we're really digging the trenches of the dorky, okay,
We're
nerd
here
alert,
for it. Yeah.
They is I think there is I didn't know this, but there was like two different color wheels for the GT3 and 997 and,
Okay.
and the RS. Did you know that?
I don't know if I really noticed that, but I know
Yeah,
it's
so
different. I've seen different colors.
So I just assumed. So your car is meteor gray. That's what a color I painted them. But the normal skinnies have they look silver, but they're a little bit on the gunmetal side.
Yep.
But on the RSs, it's called bright silver.
Bright silver, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And so when I had like gunmetal, but then when I did the what was it? I wanted to change the color, and I found this new color.
Yeah.
I put the bright silvers on there, and it looks so much better.
It looks really good.
It looks really nice. So I don't know.
I'll do a walk around of it so we can appreciate those door pulls.
That's fine. You know what I'm going to show you? The door pulls.
First thing.
I'm going to show you those door pulls, and you're going to appreciate it.
It's just like 2 or 3 minutes of just a solid static shot of that.
I want you to count it 1 to 4. I want you to take a picture of it, portrait mode. Maybe you can do like Oslo filter on it and upload it,
make it classy.
I don't know how long I feel bad like I'm like talking your ear off.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. So like I don't know like what other 997 things like I'm trying to think of. Yeah, like that's a mod that I want to do. That's like the car about it. I don't know. It was awesome.
If you're good, we're good. I mean, that's all it is a conversation. So.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like more stuff that's particular with like the 997, because I had a friend who's a trader and he had a skinny 997 and he upgraded to a Scuderia.
Yeah.
And I always consider the Scuderia kind of like on that's the 997 version of the Ferrari.
Yeah.
That's like their
Same time frame.
because I think the 458 is a little too refined.
Yeah, that'd be new.
That car is so cool. It's so awesome, but it's not as, it's a little bit like, it's big. It's like bigger on the inside, bigger on the outside. It feels like a big car, you know? And so like, even though like he loves that car, I think eventually he would want to get back into an RS, but I do respect Scuderia. That car is like a badass car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It really is like raw. It's like the closest thing that they have to a 997, which is why I like it. But he is a trader, and he went against Porsche, and I'll never forgive him for that whatsoever.
Just keep talking to him. Hey, so
Even though people look at his car more than my car.
of course, I mean it's all about the badge.
You know what? We're gonna vent about this. This
Okay.
is another thing about being like a Porsche enthusiast and a Porsche file. Is people need to understand the sacrifice, okay? Because we don't do it to be cool. You know,
not at all. No
That's
one knows.
the thing.
No one knows what the difference between those cars are. It could just be a base 911.
The only flirting that I ever get is from like, the 65-year-old guy at the gas station with like the page, still rocking the pager on like on the belt. That's the guy that flirts with me. He's like, oh my God. The girl walks past me, like no reaction whatsoever.
Yeah.
But then like a guy will just get like a used like Huracan or something like that, and a guy out, and they're like, you have a Lamborghini, and I'm like, this is a 997.2, okay? GT3 RS.
Yeah.
This revolutionized absolutely nothing, but I still love it,
Just come over here real quick. Pops the door open.
Yeah.
See those?
The door pull. It
Yellow.
all comes back to the door pull.
Exactly.
but like, that's a thing that like, it's funny when I talk to people about it, and they're like, oh, this passion is so cool. I love the hobby.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, like you do it because like you really like your heart is in it and you love it. There's nothing about it where you do it to be cool.
I feel like it's very much translated to like Honda bro culture, where they have that one Mugen wing or something that they only made 10 of somewhere else in Japan, and it's like, I have this thing, but nobody else knows.
Oh, for sure.
You're totally. I mean, I guess that is the cool thing about the hobby, because you're in the hobby because you like it.
Yeah.
And you like it for yourself and nobody else. And if somebody else, they appreciate that thing you did, or the spec.
Well, yeah,
that's cool.
That's the thing, is that like you do something where it doesn't get like 100 compliments from just people being like, oh, cool car, but you get those like 3 or 4 compliments.
You get quality compliments over quantity compliments.
And you're just like, oh, yes, So you're like, oh, that's so great.
And for the most part, like they do, everybody I've met like drives a car, and like that also is a whole different subset of people that like you either drive your car, or you cruise your car, or that sort of thing, or you're a DE guy. I think there's different camps.
I'm a little bit of that guy where I judge those people, where I get pissed, I can't control my face. I get like a frown on my face when I'm like, because you have to like, have you ever talked to somebody where you have to like physically hold in the Porsche knowledge to not look like that guy, you know? Or, and then like, so when you're talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, I got this Porsche. And they're like, oh, sick, man. And like, maybe they got like a vintage car. They want to get into it, and they have like a 964, 993. And then you're like talking to them, and you're like, and you try to hold in how much you know, because you don't want to like ramble, And they're like, yeah, I'm thinking about the exhaust. I was like, yeah, what you want to do like a cat delete with like a, but you want to keep a primary muffler, but don't touch the secondary, because the secondary will kind of make it like a Subaru type of sound. And then they just look at you, and you're like,
you weren't ready for this conversation.
Just get the exhaust. And you're just like, shake your head. You're like, ugh. So I'm like, with like those guys, like I'm coming across more and more of these cars and coffee type of guys, And I'm like, you don't road trip it? Like, you don't do anything? And they're like, eh. And then I'm like, I just feel like I feel my blood pressure rising, where I'm like, come on, man.
Because you want them to enjoy it. They don't know what they're missing, because they're not really, trying to do something with it.
I never would have known the capabilities of Porsche if I didn't go out to the DE and learn, and it made me such a better driver in real life. But on top of it, it made me appreciate like the craft, and like what the car can do. Because that's the thing, is that, it's cool driving a manual, it's cool driving a car, but when you're on track and you refine your skills and you get good on track, it's like this synergy between man and machine, and it's more beautiful as you go back in time. I think that like with technology, but there's just a synergy about it that I tend to romanticize, that I think it's like amazing. Where it's like the car is doing exactly what it needs to do, and if something messes up, then you're in trouble, and you're doing what you need to do, and everything is good. But if you mess up, you're in trouble, And so you guys are going max out.
It's your fault if something goes wrong.
Yeah, well, it's never my fault. I'm never wrong,
Never.
It's always the car.
Exactly. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, but what I'm seeing with the new Porsche guys is I'm seeing a lot of them coming back to 997. I am, like it's 100%. I can think of 4 like classic Rentlisters off my head that were like good core guys back in the day, that were like good spokesperson, that jumped the 991, 992. They try to say that they're like, oh, the car's like great, it's capable, and then
well, I mean, they are.
Yeah, I know. But then all of a sudden, you just see a 997 pop back in, or you see like a want to buy ad, and you're like,
Yep.
oh, you came back, you know?
Just looking over the fence, like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And they all admit, they're like, there's just something about the 997 that you keep reaching for the keys, you know? It's just, again, I think it's the perfect blend of technology, but still raw inputs and like raw driving feedbacks, you know?
Yep.
And also I think that it's perfectly proportional. That's why I think that when people like I'll always like the 991. I'll always like the 992, you know, like but in terms of Porsche cars today, I think the GT4, I don't love, you know, I do like the character of her engine, even though they don't have a lot of character, but size wise, I think the GT4 is what a sports car should be.
Yeah.
You know, I think a 992 has gotten too big. It's huge.
Well, yeah, there's only so much road.
It's ridiculous. It's like the dash is like so tall, like you just feel too spacious. Like 997, it's like a fighter pit, like you know, a cockpit, you know, and you're like, let's go. That's why I like it. That's why Mezgers Only.
Exactly.
See how I like to tie it back in.
Tied it all back in.
We can back in.
We can end it there.
Yeah, there you go.
Good.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I
Thank
appreciate
you for talking all the time.
That was the worst handshake I've ever done in my life. That's like
we can just not even. I won't even play it. It'll just be black screen and just audio.
You gotta have it. It's like the fist bump, but then you miss the fist
See,
bump.
we can do the fist bump.
You do?
So, reclaim.
There you go.
There we go.
See, the fist bump, then it turns the shift knob, and then you're kind of like this, and then
It's awkward.
you just, especially happens with one of your friends is cool, and you just feel so like
Exactly. You're just overthinking it, and it's like,
you're like, I'm such a loser. I'm sorry. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Mezgers Only Podcast. Please check us out on Instagram at Mezgers Only or on the website at mezgersonly.com. See you next episode.